You should go get a tea, Eden. Hello, hello, everybody. I'm still finishing up some stuff for this session because we've got a whole bunch of people here. It's lovely to see you all. Hello, Liz. Hello, Slate. Hello, Eden. Top G. Anthony's here as well. Good to see you, Anthony. Lovely to have you with us. And we got Jose, Lily, and Victoria, and Leia. Leia was the first one today, coming in with a hot yo-yo. Yo-yo to you too, Leia. Good to see ya. How is everybody doing? Everybody doing well? What has everyone been up to this week? What have we been up to? On my side, I've been honestly doing a whole bunch of editing. Editing was like the majority of my day today. So, yeah, I've been doing a lot of that stuff. Let's switch on over. Yeah. Hello, Louise. Good to see you. Trying some new camera stuff as well, so it might get all funky on us. But yeah, what is new here? Like I was saying, I spend a whole bunch of time like editing. Don't focus on the background. Come on. Spend a whole bunch of my time like editing. That was mostly my day, honestly. So lots of editing. Yeah, editing for the course, right? So just to give you some context there, I'm currently going through like 5 hours of content on how to build like cool looking foliage for your games. So that's what I'm currently going through. So that's gonna be awesome. But yeah, I need to basically go through all of it, make sure it's all like looking nice, that it all flows really well. We have to build some additional content for it as well. Oh. Molina says you have a nice aura. Oh, thank you. It must be the lighting. Lily says, "Ooh, exciting! Yeah." So, yeah, we've been working hard on that. I think from the content side, everything is done. Now we just need to get everything edited, and then get it thrown onto the website and all that kind of stuff. That's hopefully going to be done like this week somewhere. That's what I'm hoping. Even though it is really big. What I've also been trying to do, and this is sort of like my hobby or kind of my thing that I love to do on my own time, is I love automating things. So in the weekend, I spend like a couple of days just trying to build some new tools for, in this case, like Evelyn to use for our workshops. Like tools as in like it sets stuff up for you automatically, right? Whereas like before we had to do it like manually, now we're trying to automate some stuff to help us focus on the stuff that actually matters, right? Like actually running the workshops and talking to the host and seeing how we can improve the experience for people and all that kind of stuff, rather than just being busy with a bunch of repetitive things that yeah, that just keep us busy for no reason, right? Because we're continually looking at the improvements that we can make for like the people and then also the hosts that come on as well. So yeah, it allows us to spend more time there. Yeah, and then I've also been editing. I've edited the workshop from YouTube that we had over the weekend, which is awesome. It gives me a peek into like looking at the content as well, which was like really nice. So that will be arriving somewhere this week. I'm just waiting until we have like a couple of images, and then I can round off that edit, and then you will get it in early access if you are a workshop tier member. So yeah, that's what's been going on. Do you guys see the new Steam hardware announcement? Looks pretty cool. I have not seen that. I have no idea what's happening. I am just in like, I guess editing. I do actually like editing, so I'm gonna call it like editing heaven for now. Yeah, so doing a bunch of cool stuff there. I am slowly but surely getting like an itch to do like more 3D stuff, and also want to think around with like a bunch of other stuff too. But I think what I have to do is just wait until we do the move to Belgium. I think, who was it? Lewis was asking what is new here. That is new here. So you kind of see like some stuff being packed up in the background and stuff. That means we're moving from the UK back to Belgium. So that's going to be a whole thing. Once we get set up there, I hope to experiment with like a bunch of new things that I want to have fun with. Maybe also do some more 3D stuff. Give it some time, you'll question your love for editing. I've been doing editing for quite a while now. Like, even when I was running the workshops by myself, right? I kind of always loved the editing part. I don't know. There's something so satisfying about it. I I do I do love tinkering around with it. So for example, I've made like a new intro transition, and I had like it's simple, right? But I had a lot of fun doing it. And it's also nice where yeah, where I get to tinker around with stuff myself. I don't know. I love to be hands-on with things rather than just handing it off to someone else and then waiting for it to return. I don't know. Obviously not not a great sign if you want to run like a business of some scale, but hey, that's a different thing. Luis is saying, I miss your streams from when you were doing 3D or stuff in Blender and in Engine. So that is actually one of the things that I do want to get back into. Because so my whole setup now is kind of only focused on the business, right? But I'm still an artist by heart. So I'm kind of itching to get back into 3D again, and I have some ideas of what I want to build. But for that to kick off, I'm just waiting until we do the move, we get settled, and like the whole office is kind of in order and all that kind of stuff. Before I do more of that, because I do want to, I don't know, I do want to stream like more regularly again. Like just have like office hours or something like that where I can, I don't know, like twice a week, I'll just stream me doing stuff. I think that would be cool. Are you excited to move? Yeah, it's weird. It doesn't feel real yet, even though it's going to be in like 3 weeks. And here's the weird thing. I'm not necessarily excited as you would expect, because there is an element of this where it feels like we're moving back, And that has like, I keep telling this to friends, like it has like a slight taste of failure. Like, oh, all the plans and all the adventures that we had, like they've come to an end, and this is where we're gonna go back to where we came from, right? Which kind of has this like very sour note to it. And it's not 100% sour, but I can't deny that that is like the taste that I'm getting occasionally, if that makes sense. Like, I'm happy to be closer with family, I'm happy to be closer with friends, like all that kind of stuff. We're planning to go traveling more and see like friends that have like moved about in Europe, which from the UK becomes a little bit more difficult. And traveling in the UK is like pretty expensive comparatively. So we're looking forward to all of that. It's just, yeah, there's a slight hint of like, hey, we've built up like the last 10 years to be, to work in the games industry, and now the plan, at least for the foreseeable future, is that I'm not going to be a part of that industry anymore. And I'm doing this thing now, right? Which is, it's industry adjacent, but it's not the same thing as like being a part of a team and making a game. So there's that. So it's, I don't know. It's loaded, I guess. But yeah. So yeah, I guess it's a mixed bag. But like in general, like, cost of living is cheaper and all that kind of stuff. So it comes with like a whole bunch of benefits on top of it too, right? Plus also like not being attached to like a skilled worker visa. And then, yeah, all that kind of, forgive my French, but like fucking bullshit that you have to deal with. Like just, it's not that you actively have to deal with it, but it's in the back of your head enough that, at least for my part, it makes me worry about things. Or like not worry about things, but like, I don't know, create like a low-level anxiety or something like that, right? Like, I don't know, something of those feelings. Victoria's saying, I feel like when you get back to a place after some time, it will look so different. At least I felt for me when I was visiting the place that I used to live. Yeah, so that's the thing, right? Like, I completely see like the place where we're from in like a completely different light now. And I don't have like the very sour notes of like going back. back for those reasons necessarily. If that makes sense. It's because I do 100% agree, right? Like if I go back to like Antwerp, which is like the bigger city where I'm from. I'm not from Antwerp itself, but from like a rural town next to it. When I go back to Antwerp, I see it in a completely different light, and I actually do really enjoy it. And I feel like it's going to be fun moving there, and we're basically going to be tourists in our own city, right? It's just, yeah, it's just more the feeling of like, hey, we've really tried hard to make this game industry thing working, and now, oh, well, if I have to be honest, like it feels like more and more like how I think about it is that that chapter is now done, but I don't know if the chapter next to it is gonna work out, if that makes sense. Like, you know? Yeah. To be honest, if you get bored, you could just drive to another country. I mean, honestly, like we live so close to the border anyway that it like literally, if we drive north for like 30 minutes, we're in the Netherlands. So I think we might like go to the Netherlands like a couple of times a month just to do shopping or like, I don't know. But also, you only live once, take the bucket list off. Yeah, but I don't really have a bucket list. So, I mean, that sounds that sounds so nihilistic to say, but I don't really like. Genuinely, like the thing that I look for most forward to the most is currently making the course work so that I have enough income to have like a life where I don't need to be thinking about the financials. Well, financials anymore is like a big thing, but like that we at least be able to sustain ourselves, and that's it. And then what I kind of want to do after that point is like I want to organize stuff and I want to create more resources, and I kind of want to do more stuff. You know, I want to create more stuff for people. I want to engage with more people. I want to experiment more with like I don't know, with technology in general, you know? Like I want to build up hobbies, all that kind of stuff. I don't really have like the big lofty things, if that makes sense. I'm sure, you know, you have the things where it's like, oh yeah, I kind of want to travel again, you know, like go to a different country or something like that. But it's not bucket list. It sounds so silly. Like I've gotten to the point where like my bucket list now is going to like the supermarket with my mom. Like I want to do that, you know? That's like pretty much at the top somewhere where I want to spend more time with like my parents and I don't know, do like menial stuff, you know, like go out for food, like go out for shopping, like help him with groceries, like whatever. But yeah, I mean, I make it sound so like dramatic, right? But we are looking forward to it. I think once we get to like finally packing everything in and my desk is no longer going to be here, I think it's going to be real. And then once we walk into the new place and we get settled, I think we're going to be freaking excited. But yeah, a couple more weeks. So Lewis is saying you're not in the games industry now. I think I missed something. Yeah, so 2 weeks ago I quit my job at Playground Games. So currently I'm not in the games industry. I guess I'm games industry adjacent, right? Always have and always will be. I do love this industry. Yeah. Playgrounds in April in Eindhoven. It's not 100% games focused, but super fun to network and attend talks. I've heard about Playgrounds a lot. So friends of mine have done talks and all that kind of stuff, and I've always wanted to visit, but the timeline just never worked out. So that's going to be cool. That is also one thing that I'm really looking forward to, is that now I'm doing this full time, and once we do like the whole settling in like our country again, I do want to go to like more conferences more and like do that stuff too. I'm looking forward to that as well, for sure. So yeah, Playgrounds is definitely on the table. I go every year. It's so fun. Yes. Not as big as DevCon, but still really fun. Yeah, I guess that like DevCon and Gamescom is like massive, right? But I do enjoy those smaller ones. So here's an idea that I had, for example, right? I wanna organize like, I don't know, like a game dev meetup in Antwerp, for example. I do want to give that a try and then maybe turn it into like a monthly thing or something like that. I have some friends there that are still in the city, so maybe getting together with them to organize something like that, and then see what comes out of it. I do wanna do that stuff more. We have Dutch Game Week in Breda, December the 3rd and December the 4th. That's a little bit close to my move, but maybe next year. There's also everything procedural, right? Like friends of mine go to that like every year. That will be good. London BE meetup someday. We actually did one already like a couple of years ago. We went to EGX together. But that was yeah, that was interesting. EGX was like on its last legs at that point, and now they merged with like Comic-Con and stuff. But yeah. Who knows? Like we were talking about like potentially other locations that we could go to for like the game artist meetup, right? The one that we organized at Cologne last year, and we're gonna organize go organize it again at Gamescom this year. We were talking about like, hey, if we wanted to do it like somewhere else, what would be like a good thing? Yeah. Lily says we have network lunches 2 times a month now as well. That's awesome. Yeah, Develop Brighton. The thing with those events though is that they're so freaking expensive though. Like it is so hard to justify like the travel costs and like the hotels and all that kind of stuff. Usually the expo is not the big cost, right? Well, apart if you wanna see like the talks and all that kind of stuff, right? Because I looked at Develop, and if you want to go to like all the talks, wasn't it like 1,000 quid or something like that? Or 700 quid, something like that? Same thing with GDC, right? Like if you want to go to GDC, that's like 10 grand or something like that. Once I did the calculations a couple of years ago. And yeah, it's just not worth it, you know? Because like if it's like I guess if you make enough money, you know, you can spend that amount of money on like going to these talks, but not these talks, but like to these conferences. But I've never found that they are worth the money in that way. You know, not only for the networking. So yeah. Yeah, and I find it like increasingly hard to justify it, honestly. It's so weird because I would love to go there, but it's just like, yeah, feels like very prohibitive. And even for like a person who's worked in this industry for 10 years, right? For example, the common thing is that it's like, oh, if I want to go to GDC, I will go there if I do a talk. If you have this money, why would you go there? So I would go there to like meet new people, right? Because there is an element for me, especially with running Beyond Extent and all that kind of stuff, there is an element of me going there to build like new connections and reaching out to like new workshop hosts and I don't know, people for the course and all that kind of stuff, right? So we even with us having a direct business tie to a conference, right? And making like we could even get business out of it too. We can kind of talk about it in a good way that way. But then, yeah, I feel like you have to be such a well-oiled machine and so on the money that you can talk with like a bunch of people that you can build connections with and then use that as a platform, right? Which, to be fair, I kind of did try to do at Gamescom this year. So I was talking to a lot of people there. I even though I went to DevCon, for example, the reason why I went to DevCon was not for the talks. It was to talk to the people that were hosting the talks so that I could talk to them to potentially get them on Beyond Extend as like a workshop host. That was like my only goal then. And we've been in talks with people. We're going to have like a person that we met there coming on in December, which is going to be amazing. And we're still in talks with like some other people, but it wasn't as fruitful as I was expecting it to be, you know, which is not, it's not necessarily an issue with the conference. It's more an issue with like how I went about it, because it was also the first time that I did. Yeah. To be honest, I just go to see my mates. It's kind of at times like a big game dev party in the UK. Yeah, that's what I've seen. Yeah. Yeah. Plus also, I'm a homebody, you know? I love sitting at home and just playing around with tech and just I don't know, like I said in the beginning, right? Like half of my day today, well, half of the couple of days was just spent editing and then building like a bunch of automation tools for the team. That's what I love to do. And then sprinkle in like a bit of 3D and I'm good. I love going to GDC, but it's so expensive. This year I plan to attend the local groups. Yeah, and there's like ways that you can kind of min-max it, right? I know people that, for example, volunteer at these events too, and then they get to go for free, see some of the talks, and then also go to like all the after parties and stuff too. So there, I think as a student, there's like a way to min-max that system, which is good. But if you're going there to build like professional relationships or like business relationships in my case, then yeah, you're not really gonna volunteer and then spend like half your time just like volunteering, right? Hmm. But yeah, what I do like about Gamescom, for example, is that it is not only business, it is also just um the commercial side of things as well, which is freaking amazing because I love that part of it where you can see people being freaking excited about the games that are coming out. Um so yeah. Yeah, I highly recommend Gamescom. I went to develop for the first time this year. I had a good time. I find it easier if you know people going though. Yeah, yeah, 100%. That lowers like the barrier of entry like by a lot. But yeah, we'll see. Like I'm hoping so there like my school for example, like my uni that I went to like 10 years ago. They organize like a mini festival as well, like in November. So I'm planning to go there next time well, next year. Which would be cool. And I would love to do something like portfolio reviews or something like that, like live. I think that would be cool. Because I do love doing portfolio reviews and helping people there. So that would be something that I would be interested in. And then maybe talk to people for Playgrounds, like that conference as well. We'll see. I went with my mates to a tech art meetup. Oh, nice. How was that, Eden? Yeah. I mean, in general, like those meetups. So we talked a lot about this already, right? But like in general, I'm so stingy with my money as well, you know? Like as soon as I start looking at like the trips and like how much it costs to get like a hotel and all that kind of stuff, like I'm already like building like a stack of cards like against myself because I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna have to spend so much time. Oh, it's time and money." I would like to go to a tech art meet, but I don't know if I qualify. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how strict they are with the rules, but like usually you can get into those things. As soon as you are interested in tech art and you kind of have some like game dev relevant stuff, like that's all you need. Oh, that was at develop. Okay, okay. And anyone is welcome. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's the one that Nina Kloss organized, right? That's a good technique to stay home. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I love I love my office, I love having my own separate space. I got the cozy lights on. I'm just doing the stuff that I like. So yeah, don't complain about it whatsoever. But there's a bunch of cool events that I kind of want to check out at some point. Um there is one where like a bunch of people that I used to work with are mentoring now. It's called Games Grounds in Berlin. That looks like pretty interesting. We were close to going, but then it didn't end up happening, so that didn't end up working out. And I also want to go to what is that one called? Reboot Develop Blue or something like that. What's that called? Like, God, there's like I don't know if they changed locations, but they always have it in like Dubrovnik or something like that. And it comes with like the hotel and all that kind of stuff included in the ticket price. So the tickets are going to be a bit more expensive, but it's overall it's way cheaper to go to compared to other events. So yeah, who knows? But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what's gonna happen. It's basically just like the next chapter of things, right? So we'll see what's gonna happen. But yeah, I would love to do more stuff and maybe even, I don't know, organize some stuff, right? I think that would be very interesting. Because like Belgium, we have Larian in Belgium, right? Like the people behind Baldur's Gate 3 and Divinity Original Sin and stuff. But apart from that, we don't really have like any bigger game studios, really. And I think it is picking up. There's some places that are starting to, I don't know, get some traction. There's like an indie space that is sort of happening in Ghent, which I'm like kind of keeping tabs on. So yeah, there's some interesting stuff happening, which I kind of want to be a part of. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Da-da-da-dum. But yeah. God, I was we were talking in the community about the latest video from People Make Games. I don't really want to talk about it too much because it's such a depressive topic again, right? But like the whole saga with like Rockstar just letting go of like a bunch of workers that were unionizing and stuff. Ugh. Yeah. It just sucks. I just shared my feelings in the chat as well. But yeah. Wait, what is this about beer? Belgium has the best beer, don't tell the Czechs. As a German, I'm offended. I will say it here publicly. German beer sucks. UK beer sucks. Belgium has the best beer. I just have to say it. I just have to say it. I think the way, so here's the way that I always see it, right? And if you look at the volume, that people consume, the data kind of matches this up. But the beer in Germany or in the UK is made to be consumed in volume, whereas the beer in Belgium is more catered towards enjoyment. Yeah. Tex wins in terms of mass appeal. Belgium is the beer snobs heaven. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We have the best beer. We make songs about beer. Wait. Just because you have some marketing campaign around it doesn't mean that you have the best beer, Leia. Come on. Wars were started for smaller reasons than this. Yeah, it's like if I didn't try, and it's not that I dislike German beer, right? It's just that like Belgian beer is better. Like we've had some great like German beers. Belgian beer is stronger too. Yeah. I think overall, like even the fruity beers, I think even the fruity beers are like 5% or something like that. You're not drinking beer in the UK because it's good. You're doing it to get hammered. Yeah, I get that feeling, and we have the same thing in Belgium as well, right? Like, the thing that is sold around the world, Stella, that is like sold on taps, and that's like some of the cheaper beer that we get in like Belgium. You got, what is it like? Jupiler is more like a regional thing. That's what I drank when I kind of like got into drinking and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Jupiler is more regional. Then you got Stella. You got like a whole bunch of like regional on tap beers, which are just like for I think like general consumption, right? And then you have the specialty beers, which are like, oh, you have to go to like a monastery to get it like once a year. That's when it goes on sale and all that kind of stuff, you know? It's yeah, Belgian beer culture is like really interesting. And I do love sitting on a terrace like in the sun on like a nice summer day and just enjoying like a nice cold like Leffe Ruby, for example. That's like my favorite beer. My favorite beer in Belgium when it's summer. Hello, Dinant. Oh my god. Yeah, I do have to say, like, I'm not that heavy of a drinker anymore. I feel like I've already drank enough for like a lifetime. God, went freaking nuts when I was when I was younger, when I was a young lad. Code for drinking in style, Belgium. It is really nice though. Like having, and it's also like it's a massive terrace, right? It's not like the UK has like beer gardens, which in some cases are really nice as well. But I feel like that culture that we have in Belgium, where like a terrace, you can just like sit outside on like a massive terrace. That is even in the smaller towns, you have it. Like it's really interesting comparing like the niches, right? Because a beer garden kind of tries to do the same thing, but it's more, yes, it's usually more closed off, depending on where you live. And the liver, oh yeah. I think my liver is very happy compared to where I was like, I don't know, when I was like 18, 20 or 22 or something like that. It doesn't help that you need to sell, like you need to be able to drink nowadays. I actually, well, so I know the prices in the UK, which was like freaking bonkers, like how much you pay for like a beer, like from a pub now. It's freaking crazy. I actually don't know like the price of a regular beer. Yeah. Oh, that sucks. Digestive habits, drinking and all that. Yeah. That's not great. What's beer? Like 650 in London? Yeah. Yeah, I remember. So a couple years ago, we went to EGX, right? Like the BE meetup that we did was the first time that we did a meetup, and then we ended up in the Weatherspoons because, of course, we ended up in the Weatherspoons. And I remember like getting a cider, just like a cider that was on tap or something like that, for 7 quid. And I was like, what? I thought like Weatherspoons was gonna be the cheapest place to get like a freaking cider, but God, it was so expensive. Yeah, I was really like thrown back by that. Like I was like, wow, okay, like inflation really hitting hard, huh? That was crazy. I still remember that. I also remember like them telling me the price, and I was just like, wait, I ordered two, right? And they were like, yeah, that's for two. And I'm like, okay, wow. I think we had one drink that evening, and then and then we went home. Just like, okay, it's not worth it. Jesus. Yeah. Not great. Yeah, Charlie, you're getting into like massive home brew stuff. I've not made my own beer actually. Maybe Belgium is not gonna let me into the country after I say that, but hey, I've not made my own beer before. I made some kombucha and like all that kind of stuff, but yeah. Maybe I should give it a try. Anyways, we have a whole bunch of people today, so the pre-yap is not going to be too long. So let's actually just dive in. You know, I was trying to kind of finish up my notes, but as you can tell, I love yapping too much. So let's go into some feedback. Because we have so many people, we're unfortunately going to have to do like the team challenge stuff at the end. But we'll see how quickly we get through things. So we've got some people putting up their hands. So free, if you wanna go first, feel free to put up your hand. We can go from there. Attempt mead. Mead is easy apparently. Ooh, I do love myself some good mead though. The issue is that I'm not a home drinker, you know? Like not at all. So I don't know. Well, maybe give it a try. It's not a bad suggestion though. Like some mead to share with some friends. Ooh. I keep watching those guys make mead from Monsters and Mountain Dew. Okay, maybe I should give that a try, you know? Just slap some random stuff together, throw some Mountain Dew on it. Alright, anyway, let's switch on over. Let's have a look. I need to get my chat up here. Otherwise, I'm gonna lose track of go first. All right. So we got Leia first. Let's have a look. Where is Leia in the list? Right. Let me get YouTube chat next to me as well. the cries of pain from Eden. No, Dinant, no. It's kind of dangerous though, homebrew, if you're not careful enough. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like honestly, we had a kombucha like bottle explode in our cupboard because we forgot to buy like the appropriate like bottles. That was scary. That was freaking scary. So yeah, I can imagine. We were just lucky that it exploded in the cupboard and not just like on the sink or whatever. We got lucky. Let's see. So Leia first. Let's have a look at what we want feedback on. Mead takes months. Oh, but that makes it better, no? That makes it better. Right. Leia is currently asking, I feel like the materials feel like very homogeneous as of now. How can I add more visual interest to the textures? Well, so that's the question that we're asking here, right? First of all, a really simple thing is we want to add like more variation in the base color, right? Because right now it just feels like gray. There's not too much interest about to happen here. I also feel that if you really wanted to make this look really nice, you got to build up the layers yourself in like Substance Painter, because I have the feeling that what happened here is that you took a picture of like a pre-existing asset or something like that and then just try to layer stuff on top of it, which is just not really gonna work. I think if you want to do it properly, you kind of have to, you can use those things, right? But you kind of have to use them in a way where you layer them on top of each other. So yeah, and that will give you like more control over how you arrange like all the details, such as the base color, right? Like making it more interesting to look at from like a base color perspective, because right now we're just looking at like a surface that is pretty uniform by the way that you set it up, right? Polyhaven and Megascans textures, yeah, I feel like you can use that, but you have to do more to it, you know? You have to like really adapt it, because for the most part, I feel like they're designed to be relatively basic so that they can get used in like blending and all that kind of stuff too, right? Oh yeah, the next comment was make your masks more visible, because you do have masks here for like moss. You have like, I think that's just normal information, I think. I'm not too sure actually. But anyway, maybe that's like a mask for the bottom as well. Try to look at some images, right? This is literally the first image that I encounter on Google. And that kind of gives you like a nice overview of like all the layers that can happen, right? So on the left, we have color variation in the wood. At the bottom here, we have like that dirt layering, that dirt skirting that happens when you like have this buildup of dirt that cakes up over like the ages. And then you kind of have like a moss buildup like to coincide with that, right? Because of the moisture in the area and all that kind of stuff too coming into play. But yeah, I would say as a general sense, if you ever get lost, if you're ever like, how can I make this look better? That is usually a sign to look at more reference. And just do a little bit more research, because that's going to be super, super helpful with it. Because all the components are in here. Right? You could then start looking at like, okay, so all the woods has like individual colors, right? That's what we said here. Cool. So we per plank, we're adding some individual like variations already. Right. That's step one. Then we have the dirt coming at the bottom. Step 2, then we have a little bit of moss just in like, I don't know, around like places where you have like moisture buildup and stuff too. And then you can keep building up those individual layers until it looks like really complex, right? I'm starting today, so I'm planning to invest more time into the texture in the coming days. That's good. The bottom grain is a blue channel, the vertex color. Okay, so you are using that for something? Yeah, just make it. Yeah, and think about like how you can get that, right? So for example, think about how you can get the information for the individual masks. For example, where moisture gathers, that you can easily use like an AO bake or something like that for it, right? Whether you do that inside of Houdini or whatever, like I don't know. But you could use AO information, then layer like an additional mask on top of that, and then you can use that to like indicate that that's where the moisture is going to be. Right? So look at how you can get that like information in your case in like a more procedural way. Right. Cool. And you're thinking about like adding decals and mesh decals later down the line to make everything look more used. Yeah, but to a certain degree, you're probably not going to need it unless you want like unique information, because you can already get like really, really far by just doing like all the layering within like in like a generic procedural way already. So yeah, good little update later. Leia, sorry. I like what you're doing here. So keep up the good work. And yeah, just a little bit more research, a little bit more reference consumption, and that's gonna help you a lot when it comes to this, right? Because yeah, I don't know if we discussed this in the beginning. Usually these pieces that have like bigger surface areas that you need to do usually require you to be more attentive to the detail that you add into your textures, right? Because that's where the focus is going to go to. So having additional layers is probably like a pretty good thing to look into for you. Doo-doo-doo. Let's put on some different stuff here. Right. Cool. Thank you, Leia. And best of luck in the next update. Right. Who was next? So we got Victoria. Who's next? Cool. So a couple of questions from your side, Victoria. The first one was, is a higher poly count needed? And I think you brought something up about like in some angles you can kind of see the faceting on the asset at the moment, right? You're wondering if it's good for a portfolio if you need to go higher. So I don't think you need to go higher. I think it's looking really good already. And I think if you wanted to go higher, then I kind of want to see a more interesting use of those polys, if that makes sense, right? Because, for example, right now we have like a lot of polygons around like the edges of objects, right? Which makes total sense. For example, this bamboo ring. However, if we have those edges already, we might as well like kind of push them apart and kind of make the silhouette like more interesting than it is, right? Because if we have the geometry here already, you're kind of seeing like a little bit of jagged stuff happening. But let's imagine that, I don't know, this is like not a... I mean, this is not going to come through at all. You could almost... I don't know, let's make it something like this instead, you know? It's like a little bit more worn, maybe? And then maybe just pushing some edges like a little bit out, so that the cut is like less perfect. And that's where I would say to go to, right? If you want to add more polygons, I think you can. But then you have to push a silhouette to kind of make up for like why you're adding those polygons, right? Yeah. So currently, I think this looks great though. Like I was saying, like you only need more poly count for a more dynamic silhouette, right? That's more. That's my non-streamer brain acting up for you there. Like it's more succinct. Or maybe for detail shots, right? That's like an exception where if you want to go really close up with something, maybe you can then add like additional polygons to just like get it to look like really nice for like the camera, right? Victoria saying, I see what you mean. I was thinking to change the shape of it and make it close to the concept. Let's see. What does the concept look like? Let me just copy it in here. Yeah, it's a bit more organic, right? It's a bit more. Yeah, like I said, like even if you do small stuff like this, which I generally like do recommend to do, is what's happening here? Go away. Right. So if you have stuff like this, just making the silhouette like a little bit more interesting, right? Like just having this come out this way, and then this come out this way. You don't even have to you don't even have to necessarily like rebake and all that kind of stuff. You can do this in the low poly at the end, where you can just like bend some of the edges to make this silhouette more interesting, right? So that's gonna be cool. So that's gonna be really helpful. Doug Plays Valorant says, I have a question, but it's not related to environment art. What are we allowed to ask it? It depends on what, but yeah, go for it. Well, it depends on what if I'll answer it. So let's see. But yeah, that is something that you can do at the end, right? Especially where you have like these areas. The silhouette here having this like little breakup, or maybe even like a little breakup in the bamboo, gonna be highly effective, right? Just have it curve more up, and just like, yeah, just slightly, or like try to push the silhouette. I mean, we're kind of going off course now. And we'll get to your answer on your question in a little bit, Marmoset. Yeah, the only thing that I was gonna say about the poly count was this is an interesting thing that I do. This is sort of like what's going on in my brain when I need to do a portfolio review or I look at people's wireframes, right? I will look for spots where the density of one object is completely different compared to the density of another object, right? For example, that is what's happening here. So what this means is that you feel that this object is justified to have a higher poly count, right? But this object, even though it's from bigger scale, doesn't, right? I'm trying to highlight this to give everyone a sense of like how I tend to look at things, right? Because what that means is that you want to get the silhouette of this looking really crisp, right? Even though the silhouette doesn't dramatically changes. But then for this one, like you can really see the edges of the silhouette, right? Sometimes it's justified, but for example, in this case, I would drastically reduce the thing that is hanging from like the wood, right? Because the wood is so simplified compared to the cloth, and the cloth doesn't really need that much geometry. And even if you were to like, let's say, vertex animate or on something like that, you can just add the geometry in like this section, just like a little indication of how I think a lot of industry professionals look at people's wireframes to see if the difference between one element of the asset is justified compared to another, right? So just to give you some insights there. So I think overall the poly count is really good. I would just try to reduce some of those denser areas, right? If you can. And I think we're going to be in a good spot then. And we can easily see the denser areas, right? Like the denser area here, all the rope stuff basically, right? Like all the fabric and rope stuff could use like a little bit of optimization, right? Or what you do is you do the opposite, right? And you kind of do what we talked about in the beginning, and you build a more interesting silhouette by then adding more geometry to it that is going to push it closer to the ropes. But I think in terms of density, I think the boat itself is good in density because we can barely see like any issues, right? If we get this close, we're barely seeing any issues. Like you even have like the nice bits of like bamboo sticking out, right? All right. And then you asked a question about the texture resolution as well, if that's too low. I would say not currently. I can't really see it being too low. If I have to give you an approximation, try to stick between like 1024 and 2048 pixels per meter for your texel density. That's going to be more than enough. Usually you lean more to like the 2K. But that's going to be enough. And then you had like a tiny third question where it's like, you were basically asking, I'm using multiple trims, can I combine them into one? And that is totally fine, you know? For an asset like this, we actually have a presentation about this on our YouTube channel called Hybrid Trim Sheets. It's basically making the most out of unique elements on your UVs and then also trim sheets on your UVs, but you just pack them into like one singular texture. It has downsides as well, but if you have a lot of like really long things, like let's say on this boat, then you can actually get a lot of benefit from having like a couple of trim sheets that you can tile those things on. So, yeah. Have a look at that presentation. I mean, yeah. Cool. Thank you, Victoria. Slate is saying, was the front stick retopologized manually? Yep, it definitely looks like it. And I mean that not in a bad way, right? I mean that in like a careful way of like how the topology runs, rather than just like a remesh that is just like pretty generic in the way that it runs across the whole asset. Cool. Yeah, thank you, Victoria. Thank you for sharing your work. And I love this first pass of the textures. I like what I'm seeing. So yeah, great stuff. If there was one last thing, is again, I think you said the same thing. I was just wondering. Sorry, Tim. No, it was my mistake. I sounded so sarcastic. So, I was gonna say the last thing. I mean, we talked about it a little bit already, but yeah, this silhouette is really nice, right? So, yeah, try to to lean into some of the aspects, right? Like how this kind of like curves this way, how this kind of dent happens here. There's some really cool stuff happening in the silhouette. Okay, thank you, Victoria. A question in between. Let me see if I can make sense of it. So the first one was from the Marmoset Emperor. Hey, I would like to ask a question instead of these feedbacks. Couldn't it be better to show what to do inside of Unreal Engine, building an environment? Oh, you mean instead of these feedbacks, you want me to like showcase like how it is to build in Unreal Engine? Well, I actually used to do that. There's nothing better, or like this is what I enjoy spending my time on, and I think people have get a lot of value out of this. But yeah, thanks for the question. And then Doug Plays Valorant says, my sister is 16 years old and she's all over about learning to animate. I even bought her a new tablet and all that, but I know the reality of the animation industry. It's messed up, and I don't know how to tell her not pursue it as a career. Well, here's the thing. I don't think you need to not tell her. Well, I don't think you should tell her to not pursue it as a career. Because it's a difficult one, right? But what you're trying to do, especially in this case, your sister is 16 years old, and if she loves to animate, and you tell her like, hey, you shouldn't be doing this, like, I feel that she might do it regardless of what you're gonna say anyway, and that's just gonna add straight into your relationship, right? That you have with your sister. Plus, also the additional fact of it's hard to really know how the animation industry is gonna look like in 5 years, let's say, right? I mean, she's gonna be 21 then. Let's say 21, like she's there at that point, like ready to go into the industry. We have no clue what the industry is going to look like at that point. So it's really difficult. And I know what you're trying to do, right? It's like you're trying to set her up for the best, most successful life that you can. I just hope she keeps it as a hobby. Yeah, I think that's all you can do. It's like you can kind of hope for things, but I feel like if you want to influence that, I don't think that's going to work. First of all, not really, I think. Maybe I'm biased because I work in tech. Yeah. I mean, for sure, right? But it also has a lot to do with... God. Like, it has a lot to do with the current industry. The current state of the industry, right? And also just... I would never want to rob people from the experience of becoming like an animator or like becoming an artist or whatever, right? I think honestly, that's life, right? Like in this case, your sister is really just going after like learning to animate, right? And if that is what she wants to do at like 16 years old, that is like freaking crazy to me. I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do at 16 years old. I didn't even know when I was 20. So yeah, I think there's a part that we need to appreciate, that she knows at this point that like, hey, look, I'm 16 years old. This is what I want to do. And then, you know, whatever's going to come along her way on that path, I think she'll have to deal with it on her own accords, right? Because maybe, who knows, maybe she'll discover something else along the way that she likes even more. For example, I'll give you an example of my pathway, right? I always loved drawing. And then I wanted to become a concept artist, right? Because that was like the thing that I saw a lot of people do, so I wanted to do that. And then when I was 20-ish, 21, I just randomly went to like a university that had like a games degree. And because I wanted to still pursue concept art. And then during that degree, I switched to environment art, right? So who knows where that whole journey is gonna take her, you know? Maybe she can join animation discords with professionals, and give her an accurate picture of the industry. And if she feels she's really passionate and ready for that, well, I mean, it's good advice, right? But the advice that we're going to get about the current state of the industry is going to be totally irrelevant to a person that's going to be going into it in like 5 years. Right? That's the whole issue with it. I started at 16, I'm now 19, and I know how screwed I am. I will fight through it anyway because I like environment art. And I don't think you're screwed, right? I mean, yeah, the industry is not, well, the AAA industry specifically is not doing great. But I think the rest of the industry is doing fine and is more thriving than ever, right? Sure, like if we look at the whole perspective, AAA was always seen as like the safe haven of games, right? Because if you look at indie games, it's all just like, I don't know, garage bands getting together, trying to make it work, and then it's starting a business, right? Like a lot of them fail. A lot of them fail, and a lot of them will keep failing. But yeah. I think, yeah, the main thing that I struggle with is that, especially with the age difference, is just, yeah, that the advice that she were to get right now is going to be totally irrelevant by the time that she actually is going to get in, right? And also, you know, sometimes you need to be. There's a more elegant way. There's a more elegant way of saying this, but I'll talk about myself, right? I think sometimes I had to be stupid and just mindlessly push through stuff to then figure out that like it wouldn't work, right? On my own accord. Because if someone else had told me, like I would have been just like, oh, I don't care. Like if you would have told me, like, I don't know, like in my second year of uni, that the whole industry was on fire and you were not going to get in, I would have not even listened. I would have just been like, whatever, man, I'm just creating cool art. Like, just leave me alone. Get out of here. Sometimes the smart way is actually the wrong option. I had to learn that the hard way. Yeah, I feel like I'm still learning that, right? Because it has like layers to it as well. Like, take what I do, right? Like 2 weeks ago, I quit my job at an established AAA company, which is like the thing that a lot of people are fighting to get into now. But it is just, I don't know, sometimes you have to do these things that like make no sense on the surface just because you feel something inside, right? Like for me, it was like, hey, if I keep doing this, like there's a lot of friction. Like it was getting at times where I just didn't want to get up. I didn't want to go to work and all that kind of stuff because the work was pretty mindless sometimes, you know? Whereas here, every day is a challenge. Like every day I'm fighting for stuff. And that's the way that I want to live my life, you know? I don't know. Sounds so weird to say, but new stuff is popping up all the time. She likes Roblox. Look into Roblox. That's the growing industry, which is booming. And I know environment artists who do stuff. There's one custom map. One custom Roblox map is about like $200 to $500 Well, I think from what I can tell, professional people that I talk to that want to get into Roblox, they just make their own games. Like I know some people that have switched from like working in AAA to being like a full-time Roblox like developer. And they're like pretty successful. But I think honestly, Duck, you're on the money there. I think if you are in a position where you want to become an environment artist, you need to look at those things, right? Like look at Roblox, look at like what Unreal Engine is doing with Fortnite, right? Like how those integrations are coming together. That kind of stuff is where the industry is going. Whereas, for example, if we're talking about like let's say a lot of the career advice that would be relevant to me is going to be like super outdated for like a lot of people that are going to be in this chat, like trying to get in, right? There's two completely different worlds. I did a 2-year art degree in graphical art, printing techniques, screen printing, etc. I had a lot of fun and learned a lot. The main thing I learned though was I wanted to pursue environment art. So I would say that all artistic pursuits are worthwhile. Yeah, so my first interaction with art, well, I was drawing a lot, right? I said that before. But when I wanted to take this seriously, what I did is I went to like a marketing school. This was a school that was all about like typography and fonts and like web design and all that kind of stuff, right? I was doing that. And then I went to game design and I was like, well, game art specifically. And then I was like, oh, what the am I doing with like all this font design, right? Like, how is that going to be relevant? Look at us now. The website, beyond extent, like I've built that, right? And that is the way that it looks is because I did this thing like 10 years, well, 15 years ago now, that allows it to be properly designed to like a certain degree compared to like if someone else with no experience would do it, right? And also like the fundamentals, right? Even if you want to do like some portfolio presentation, like I take good care of my thumbnails, I make them consistent, I do all that stuff because I know that that's the thing that matters coming from like website design and stuff, right? So it's like, yeah, a lot of cool stuff happening. Some of my friends, this is Victoria, some of my friends changed their careers drastically. I think it depends on what she likes to do and what opportunities she'll find on her path. Yeah, and I think that's why I'm saying like 16 years old, right? In this example, who knows what's gonna change, right? Who knows what she's gonna discover and who knows what she's gonna be doing. I think, yeah, if there's one thing, it's just one thing that I would say, and I'm kind of thinking about, you know, the top advice that I could give to people. And I keep going back to this. It's just like curiosity. Curiosity in all of its forms is kind of just like at the core of why I'm here and I'm not working on cars, right? Because that's what my path was at a certain point. Yeah. Charlie is saying I'm personally more interested in single A or like indie. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense for the future as well. Plus, I love the work you do here, and I found you via environment artist roles and responsibilities. Well, has that peaked? I don't know, ever since I've been lurking around. Oh, thanks for lurking, Duck. I appreciate it. But yeah, you bring up some good points, though. I feel, and this is the weird thing, right? Like, there's a massive gap between even my friends, like even my peers, like all the people that I talk to. When I tell them that like Roblox has like 10 times the amount of like monthly active users compared to like Fortnite, they're like, what? Because generally, like we know the AAA industry really well. We know that landscape, right? But then we kind of forget all the stuff that's happening like underneath. So that's why sometimes we then have to spend like extra effort to be in tune, with those industries and how we can then sort of adapt like our logic or our advice to it, right? Because it's such a good topic. Such a good topic. 23 million active users in one game alone is crazy. No MMO or any game comes close. Yeah, I feel like if we look at where WoW was back in the day with like how many people had access to the internet, like just as like a phenomenon, right? I feel like Roblox is the same thing as like an internet phenomenon. All right, let's where were we? So Vidar was gonna be looked at next. Are you in the list, Vidar? We have you here. Oh, yeah, you're at the bottom. Sorry. Okay, let's have a look. Oh, I didn't even... Oh, I didn't even get you in there yet. Okay, let's fix that real quick. Dunk. There we go. Yeah, thanks for asking those questions. I mean, yeah, those questions are really important for the future, right? And I can understand that it's like, God, it's not easy. It's freaking confusing right now. And I empathize with the feeling that you kind of want her to keep it as a hobby, right? Because I would kind of feel the same thing. I'm being honest. But yeah, everyone's is on their own trajectory, right? Vidar with the broken heart. No, sorry, Vidar. Okay. Let's have a look. Vidar is working on an exam project. Looking for feedback on the proportions and the composition of the scene. I mean, the composition is like pretty simple, right? It's a tunnel. You can't really do that much with this kind of composition, right? Yeah, I mean, like same thing with the concept, right? It's also a tunnel. So there's not too much that you can do with the composition here, right? It is going to be it's going to be a tunnel whether we like it or not. So in terms of composition, we can't really do too much to change it. That's what I'm saying. Right? Because I mean, this looks good in terms of just like getting the shot and like trying to nail the concept, right? I think this looks good. Let's see. Everyone's saying congrats. Let's see. Hey Tim, been a minute, but I finally landed a job at a AAA 3 years after my first 3D course. If I could give any advice, it would be stay positive because it goes a long way. Oh yeah, 100%. First of all, congratulations, Brandon. That is amazing. But yeah, that advice is also, that has been, yeah, a secret lifesaver from my side as well. Like, whenever someone comes and talks to me and just say like, hey, we have this issue, I'm like, yeah, tell me about it. Let's fix it. You know, instead of being like, oh, fuck, we're fucked, you know? There's a big difference. There's a big difference. Yeah, congratulations again, Brandon. Looking for feedback on the proportions and the composition of the scene. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty much the same thing, right? Like in a good way. The only thing that I might say like a small thing about is maybe the lights on the right side, right? They look like pretty big. Got some chunky lights going on. But otherwise, we're looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. Let's see. And then question 2 is looking for feedback and enlightenment on the question of prioritizing accuracy to the concept or trying to make the scene feel more realistic in a 3D environment. So that's a good question, right? Like, do I stick to a concept? Let's break that down, because a concept comes from another artist who has like a bunch of references and they're trying to translate that into like a 2D image, right? But that image that has a goal of conveying something, right? So the core of the image is something that you don't really want to change. Right? So in this case, you don't really want to change, like, I mean, the tunnel, right? And then like a person walking in here if you're doing like a recreation of it. Right? Because the composition is pretty much set, so all that stuff is good. Now, how can we take it to the next level, right? And that's a question of you looking at references and being, okay, what is going to be most important to showcase in my skill set? In this case, what is going to be most important is the material work, Reason why is because we have this giant, or materials and textures, because we have this giant tunnel here that needs to look really good. Yeah. It needs to look really good, or even better than in the concept, right? Because it is the thing in the scene that is going to draw all the attention. So that means that this project at its core is materials and textures focused, right? So if we're putting any sort of value in it, it needs to go into the materials or in the textures. Right. So now that we know what's going to be the most important thing, now we can also see what we want to change, right? Like if you want to add like more cables to it, if you want to do more to the storytelling and add like more like clothes on the floor or something like that, no one's going to care about that necessarily, right? Because that is just like you can infuse stuff on top of it that doesn't destroy like the core intentions of the design, right? So, or like of the concept. So if you decide like, hey, at the end, I don't know, we're gonna make it look like people are trying to set up a trap or something like that. You can do that, and you can take the storytelling further. Because if we think about like what I'm missing is that this concept here feels pretty generic in terms of like it's more like a mood piece of, hey, this person is walking around the sewers like fully equipped out, and there's like storage stuff on the floor which hints at like people trying to escape through the sewers, right? So that is the vibe, that is the mood that we're going to get. How are you going to elevate that in your own way, right? That's where we can make a difference. So yeah, focus on the materials and textures, and then you can deviate when it comes to the storytelling or the actual details in the environment, right? Dying Light-ish vibes? Yeah. Yeah. And when you focus on specifically making it more realistic, means to me, again, first of all, texture work, right? Making those textures look really realistic, because that's what we're going for. So that tunnel textures and the layers of those textures is going to be super important. And then when it comes to the storytelling, think about like how people would like actually interact, right? Like what would they leave behind and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of it is just going to be from like the tunnel textures and how realistic you can get it all to look, like the infrastructure of the scene. Right? And for that, you're going to need like a bunch of references. Because, for example, I'm already thinking about it. Okay, usually these tunnels are like built in a modular way, right? So, and I mean modular in real life, so that you see like the seams between like these tunnels, right? How were they built? Like, how does that affect the texturing? Like, why is there like a rail thingy going through here? Like all those things. Make it feel more realistic. One of my mentors said I should make it as close to the concept as possible. And I think I took that too much to heart. Well, see, so here's where it gets complex, right? Like the explanation that I just gave you was like, you can keep it close to the concept in terms of composition and what the scene is trying to set up. But then you have to somewhat deviate from it, right? Because your job as a 3D environment artist is, if you're lucky, you get a concept from a 2D artist, and then you have to translate that into 3D, which means that you're going to have to change it because there's a translation thing that happens from 2D to 3D. And you're going to have to make improvements, and you have to decide like, hey, I know that this was like, let's say, for example, in your case, you have it as like a single tunnel. Does that happen in real life? Right? Go look that up. If it doesn't, then we're kind of missing like the separations between individual tunnel bits, right? Because that is something that the concept artist didn't capture because, again, it's not important to the core of the concept. What they're trying to do is they tell you about the mood and give you like hints at like storytelling. Like, why is this person here? Like, why did people leave their stuff behind? Like, what's happening here? A concept artist doesn't care about like the proper function of like the tunnel itself, as an example, right? But we need to elevate it to the next level by adding our own input to it. And I chose this to get better at materials and explore designer more because an environment artist from DICE told me it's the weakest point for most junior environment artists. Okay, yeah. That's an interesting point. When you get feedback from studio artists, you also have to realize that the majority of that feedback is also going to be relevant to the studio that they work for, right? Because, for example, I mean, your materials still need to look nice, but I have never, well, no, not never. Let's say in the past 7 years, I've never had to make a material from scratch, my end. I've given feedback, I've made adjustments and all that kind of stuff, but I've never had to make one from scratch, right? This is why I'm saying that is my experience, right? So for a person who's worked at DICE or maybe like another studio where they have like more ownership of different things, you might have to have that impact on the team, right? I just wanted to say that like the feedback that you get is usually catered for those specific studios. So they might not be necessarily that relevant for others. But yeah, I mean, she was definitely right on the money for like the texture work here though, because that is the main thing that's going to be important about this scene, like 100%. So yeah, good choice for the scene. It's going to be really, really cool. All right, going to be moving on. Thank you, Vidar, for sharing your work. I need to get better track of the timer again. So we got Jose next. Oh, Jose is already on the screen. Thanks for the feedback. Yeah, no worries. Okay. What is Jose working on? I didn't make any notes for this one yet. I did get some feedback on this Nargo prop I'm working on. Jose, just a reminder, feel free to ask 2 questions for this. Because honestly, when people just ask like random feedback, I usually tend to keep it really quick. So if you can help me out, I'll help you out, right? Let's see, I plan on taking the hard way in and make hand-painted environment art. No other maps, just a color map. Yeah, you can definitely do that. You're going to be targeting a small sliver of the industry at this point with that, but that doesn't mean that it's not fun. Could be very fun. Let's see. So, yeah, some feedback on this. Let's have a look. I think we looked at the poly count last week already, right? I would honestly, the first thing of feedback that I'm gonna be saying is show me renders. No, show me final renders. What I mean by that is that this is just in Substance Painter, right? Why I'm saying that is because whatever you're gonna do in Substance Painter might not actually translate to whatever you're gonna be presenting it in, right? So let's say you're doing it in Marmoset, this stuff is gonna look completely different in Marmoset. Which means that like the feedback that you're gonna receive, let's say, at this point, is not gonna be that relevant because you'll have to change it anyway to like Marmoset in this case. So let's have a look. I don't really mind the UV map. It's a little bit. Usually, what I tend to do with, for example, I would try to square as much of this stuff as possible. because that's gonna make for like a more efficient like map. Where, for example, if you can square this one and then keep some more organic or like curved sections, then you can kind of like start puzzling all the pieces together, right? Because, for example, this guy can go in here. That guy can probably be like placed in somewhere else, and like puzzling stuff together, making the most of your UV map. It's going to be valuable as well. Improve your packing. Because that's going to save you a lot of resources. Yeah, I think the texture looks decent. We can definitely do more detail in here. Right, because that's where like the coals are going to be burning. So this is going to be like filled with holes, like in here, and that's usually where you would have like a bit of tinfoil, but like a piece of charcoal in the middle. At least from ages ago when I went to like a hookah bar, like a shisha bar or whatever. Right, so trying to get that in and making it feel like it's burned, that's gonna be really, really cool. Because this plate is literally here to just like capture the spillover from this stuff happening, right? But yeah, so I'll keep it at that. Next time, show it in the final scene, because then we can actually start looking at like how we can push more detail from like the textures and all that. So yeah, because that's going to be way more relevant. And if you're doing like a lighting setup, we have like a page in our PDF for this. But look for 3-point lighting. You can also find it on YouTube as well. So that's going to be valuable. Right. Thank you, Gose. Said we can try to keep moving it on. Charlie's next. I don't have you in here. Do I? Oh god, I keep... Ugh. This is yours, right? Yeah, okay. Cool. I've made some notes before. Let me quickly go through them, and then we'll get to your question, Norbert. So the first question here, I think it got skipped. You did not get skipped, because you are next, according to YouTube chat. So we'll get to you after this one. So, composition. You added more verticality, right? Which is kind of what we wanted to do last time. So I think that worked great. The only thing that I wanted to point out was you're using the rule of thirds, right? But usually the rule of thirds is not only about like putting one element on one of the power points, right? Which is like, these guys are called the power points, by the way. Like the intersections of the grid, those are called the power points. What the focus of the rule of thirds is that we get like a more dynamic framing, right? So that means that we want to create movement from one PowerPoint to the next one. So usually the way that I go about it is I'll just do something where we start here and then we go into the scene here, right? You can also do it the opposite way around. That is totally fine too. You could even do it like going down or whatever you want to do there. However, in your case, what happened here is that we have almost this barrier in the middle because we added a lot of blocking volumes here in forms of like the trees, right? And This is what I call blocking volume. This is basically just anything here that is obscuring the view further down the scene. So if you were to simplify this, we're almost trying to tell a person, like, hey, don't look here, look here instead. Right? But that means in this case, we're getting rid of like half of the space. Right? Like half of the frame is literally like wasted space. Right? So we need to find a way to like reintroduce that in a way. Like I think we can keep the blocking volume, but we need to integrate that better into the scene, right? That's what I tried to do here, where instead of having the path coming down here and kind of ending up here, right? Because then everything is kind of like in line here. I want to start our point of entry, make it green. Like I want to move our point of entry all the way here. And that is going to create like this more dynamic line that takes you from like the left to the right and then to like the focal point, right? And then we get like a bit more travel in the scene, which makes for like a more interesting scene. And then in that case, we can use blocking volumes in, let's say, these areas to kind of keep you from going out the scene this way, right? Because again, these blocking volumes are like pushing you this way. If we add like stuff here, that's going to push you this way. So think about what we said last week, right? We can kind of use those blocking volumes like effectively, even though this was more like a straight on scene. If you use those in like an effective way, you can kind of like weave people through it. Because even in the last week, we had like a large blocking volume on the right. So that was like stopping you from going to the right. Which you don't need, right? But it can be a way to like move people closer to where you want them to see inside of the scene. And then your second question was, what would you focus on next? I would still get like a bunch of assets in the scene, mainly rocks in your case, right? I want to see more rocks. I want to see how you're going to be using those rocks as well. And in your case, it's probably going to be like modular rocks, right? Again, my advice there would be get one rock in, do a quick sculpt job on it, get it in high poly or decimate it down, whatever works for your specs, right? Get it in and start playing around with it. Because as sooner you start doing that, the better you get an appreciation for what you need and for what's missing. So start with one rock, try to duplicate that, see if you need a second rock, and then see what you need for the scene, right? But I would still think about it in like a block out kind of way. So that we focus on speed rather than perfection, right? TD Spade is asking, is this Pure F? No, it is Affinity. Well, I guess it's the old Affinity, the perpetual version, not the new one, integrated into Canva. Affinity Photo, to be specific. Right. Okay, Charlie. Thank you so much for the question. Affinity Photoshop, exactly. Yeah. Like I said here, get the scene populated. That would be like the next steps. Make sure that everything is in, and then we can just like iterate and add more details, right? Yeah, cool looking stuff. You're doing some cool materials. Don't get carried away by like focusing on a very specific thing, because that's gonna make this environment feel very overwhelming, right? Usually what you want to do is you kind of want to push everything up to the same level, sort of at the same time. Because that's going to be way more healthier for your mental sanity for a scene like this. I do that a lot. Everyone does that. It's like it's too easy. But like for example, for this, right? Like I would sort of get like, I don't know, a very basic texture And with basic, I mean just like, I don't know, like a random noise or something like that. Fill it with like a gradient fill. Get that into the scene. That is your texture until you can make it good, like in a while, right? Same thing for the rocks, right? Get a block out in, get it in quick, and then we can iterate. We can iterate further down the line. It's healthier, but I hate it. I end up getting overwhelmed by the bad work I do. I have a question for you, Slate. So, how does that because then you tend to work in the opposite way, right? Does that work then? So you focus on like one single thing, and then you go to like the next thing until the whole scene is done. Charlie's saying I need to do an acid a day challenge or something to help me get over my perfectionism. Huh. Interesting. Okay, it does help. Interesting. I get overwhelmed either way. Yeah. Well, no, that's why I was asking, right? Like, because I get that people are overwhelmed. So in this case, I mean, what you're saying might be that you just go like too big in scope for what you can handle at this point, right? Or for what you can mentally handle. It's not even like skills wise, right? Like sometimes you just need like a win to get you on top of things again. Spade is when you're saying when you're an environment artist, you're doing not only the modeling, putting it all together, and also doing lighting. So at this point, environment artists be doing everything. Well, not everything, you know? Like we don't have to program. Oh wait, you're using Houdini. No, you might have to program, you know? And can I add one more thing that's gonna make it even more depressing? You're learning all these skills to get into an industry where you then use one of your skills. Sorry, I just had to say that now. Right? You don't need hero asset quality for every asset? Oh no, you don't. If you, I swear to God, if you look at like my assets, like in my scenes, they're no one even close to like hero asset quality. Like they're good enough, right? Like that's just the mentality for like the stuff that I do. Because that's what I want to do, right? I don't want to spend my time making like a hero asset for like 3 months and then still forget that I have to do like an entire scene. No. No way. It's fair. Let's see. Before we get to you, fair, we might need to. Yeah, we're gonna go switch to Moment first, and then we're gonna switch on back over to you. I think a couple of quick questions. So, Moment was actually asking something that was relatively relevant to the topic that we were just talking about, right? Because Moment was asking, is a scene like this or like a prop like this, is that relevant to make as like an environment artist? And yeah, for sure. If you want to be, you kind of have to look at your portfolio as like a bunch of skills, right? Like think about it as like an MMO where you're grinding like your different skills and all that kind of stuff. Like hero asset creation is one of those skills. And if you want to get better at that so that you can showcase to your future employer that like, hey, I can also do this in addition to my environment art stuff, that is going to help you get better positions for those jobs that require it, right? Because if you only do environment stuff, let's say we're going to make it really specific, right? Like let's say you can only set dress. It's hard for you to go and find a job. Like the more skills you're going to have built up, like the better it's going to be for you in the job market, right? So yeah, let me see if that was all the context there. And then your second question was basically about those two reference points that you are trying to mix. And I think that's totally fine. Like 100%. Like if you want to mix like references, if you want to combine things, 100%. Go for it. There's no one telling you that you shouldn't. So just do it. Follow your artistic heart. But yeah. Cool stuff, Moment. Let me see. So for the first question, yeah. So John Arellano said that you should showcase a piece showing your modeling skills and good material definition. Yeah, I think that makes 100% sense, right? Because usually what we lack when doing environments is just that, right? Like if you can just make like relatively, I mean, it doesn't have to be like a complex prop even. You can make a simple looking prop that has like really good quality when it comes to the textures and the modeling. Modeling is like a little bit more intricate. That shows your future employer again that you have all the skills, right? So, yep. That's all looking good. And yeah, with these references, feel free to mix them as you're already doing in the little update that you shared. So, good stuff, Moment. Yeah, thanks for those questions. Right, and now we're just free roaming. So let's actually go through a couple of ones that I have notes on. That would be good. So let's go through this one from Lenny. Tom, where is Lenny? Should I rework the main background rock shells? Maybe move them around to create more depth? Or do you recommend other techniques? I honestly don't think that you need to do a lot here to add more shelves if you wanted to. I think you can honestly do just like way more with the potions already in the scene. That's what I would focus on. So for example, having like a bigger pileup of like these potions like at the bottom. You know, like here. Have like a potion pileup almost. Something that could be interesting, like you're already kind of doing here. But yeah, I don't think you need to add like more of them, honestly. I do kind of like it that it's just like, it's in his reach, right? It kind of makes sense. Hello, Hadzino. CG Spade is asking, have you messed around with Sims? I personally find making simulations the most interesting part. Yeah, I've played a lot with Sims. I thought at first you were asking about like The Sims, and I was like, no, I've never played The Sims. No, I actually use Sims a lot. Like a lot. Like if I have to do anything with destruction, if I have to scatter anything, like yeah. I was more thinking about the far background where the water flows down. I don't think you need to, because if you think about it logically, right? Like he's going to be doing like all his potion stuff like down here. So I don't really see that you need it there. So yeah. But yeah, I would definitely add more potions though. And then for the second question from your side was thoughts on the art direction. Does it look like the assets belong together? Yeah, 100%. There was only one asset that I wanted to point out, and that's these like spikes. These spikes on like the cactus, like they just render like really weirdly, and it kind of feels like, I don't know. Kind of feels like it's kind of fuzzy, but yeah, it kind of doesn't feel that cool. So I would instead go for maybe like bigger spikes or something like that, right? If you wanted to really add spikes and make them like kind of chunky. But you don't have to. In my opinion, you can get away without those fuzzy spikes. But yeah, I think the rest of them feel consistent. I added like two more additional comments here. Well, it's like number 3 and 4, I guess. Number 3 is you can do some really cool stuff with like more light coming from this potion, right? And especially because we have so much blue surrounding it, just having like this halo around the potion. That's gonna be looking really cool, and it's also gonna create like this really cool effect where it's gonna add like additional light onto his face as well, which is gonna draw even more attention to this person here, right? Then it's gonna be interesting. And then the last thing that I'll say is be careful with some of these like darker sections because they get a little bit too dark. Like at this point, it's kind of hard to read like where this pot begins and ends, right? That's usually an indication that we need to just like, I don't know, make it less contrasty or add like a little fill light or something like that there. To kind of give you some of those like interesting shadows back. Yeah, like Swippage is saying, super nice scene. City Spade is saying the same thing. Lenny is amazing. But yeah, this looks amazing, Lenny. The great stuff. And yeah, I like where this is going. Yeah. You can do some like interesting stuff with the potions as well. Where, I don't know, you can have like a broken potion and then it's just like, it's spilled down. And this like spillage can have like all kinds of like different colors happening to it too. It could be cool. Don't know how much color you want to infuse into the scene, but I don't know, maybe an occasional little splash would be interesting. But yeah. Right. Thank you, Lenny. Thank you for sharing this beautiful piece. And I just closed like a random person's thingy. God dang it. Well, oh, that's so nice. I don't know who we closed. No. Dang it. Okay, we'll have to find it out at the end of the session, I guess. Yeah. Thanks, Lenny. I would love that one bottle that has corroded to rock a bit. Oh, yeah, that would be cool. A bit of corrosion. Let's see. Who was next? So we got Dinant. Let's have a look at the work from Dinant. 2 questions from Dinant, who's working on this beautiful scriptorium. First question is, how can I effectively fill the room? I feel like adding just scriptorium benches isn't going to cut it, and neither are the bookcases. Well, here's the thing though. There's only one way to find out with this stuff, right? I think you need to add it all first, and then we can tell visually if it's going to work or not. It's always the case. I would always just throw stuff into the scene to see if it works, and then we can kind of see what works and what doesn't, right? Because otherwise we're trying to imagine stuff, and that's not really that helpful for us. Because even I was thinking like, hey, I want to see like more benches here, and then maybe if like the benches get too much, we can swap out like, let's say these 2 benches here, and we'll add like a bookcase in its place, right? Maybe. But we have to see how we're going to do it first before we can then decide like, hey, maybe we need to add like an additional prop, or maybe we'll make like a small bookcase, or maybe we'll make like a more elaborate desk, or maybe, I don't know, storage for like scrolls, right? Or maybe where do they get their paper? Like, yeah. But we need to add stuff in first before we can then start thinking about those things. That's why blockouts are so effective, right? Because they're basically just a trigger for our brain to just be like, hey, look, here's all this stuff. Like now your brain gets to fill it in, right? And then pick out what you don't like and what you do like. And the second question was, how are the colors of the textures right now? I changed the color from reddish to more gray for the floor, and I'm not 100% sure about it right now. Well, first of all, I would love to see like a reference or something like, hey, this is what I'm going for, right? Because right now, I don't really mind it. I think it's more of those like issues that we're going to have to deal with later, right? once everything is in and once the big things are done, and then we can fine tune and we can tweak like the material response and all that kind of stuff at the end. So I wouldn't let that get you bogged down now. I would just continue working on the bigger issues in the scene, right? There's one big thing that I wanted to bring up, and this is just like general advice. It is, I don't know how to say this, but I found this like a very interesting rule for everyone to have in their tool belt. Just always move forward. Like, even when you think moving forward is not the right direction, moving forward is going to show you why it's not the right direction. So even in this case, right? Like, this is why I wanted to bring this up. I don't know how to effectively fill the room. You got to fill it first, and then we can decide like why we shouldn't be filling up the room, right? But if we're too much into our head, like, that is bogging us down too much. Literally, if you have an empty space, chuck something in. If that thing doesn't look good or it gets too repetitive, then we'll just swap it out for something else, right? But this is such helpful advice. It's just always keep moving forward, even when you think it might be the wrong idea. Because with those things that we're going to be adding, like, it sparks a reaction in your brain. And sometimes that's what we need. So yeah. Cool. Thank you, Dinant. Thank you. This is Steam Challenge stuff, so we're gonna do that last. Oh my god, I missed so many of them. God, okay. So, next thing we're gonna be looking at is from Anthony Zeng. Anthony Zeng is a new member of our community, so welcome. Lovely to have you here. Yeah, say hi to Anthony, people. Come on. It would actually be kind of fun if we do like a welcome thing. Hey, there we go, Slade. Thank you so much. But yeah, welcome, Anthony. Let's see. Where is your entry? Slade, you're on the money. You are on the money. Let's go. One of us. Oh. Yeah, this is awesome. Welcome to the cult. Hey, fair. Shh. We don't tell that to people like on their first day. Come on. We gotta let them ease into it, you know? Let's see. So 2 questions from Anthony. I wanted to know if there's any areas that I should improve upon in regards to texturing and lighting. Yes. So oh, it's a spoiler. Oh, okay, it's a spoiler. So this is what it was before I made my adjustments, right? First, we're gonna start with like number 1. These are just like some random things that I noticed. The translation from the concept is great, by the way. Like, the concept is really good, and you translated it like really beautifully. Freaking awesome job. So great stuff on that to start out with. And then one of the things of feedback was that the trees felt like really consistent, and it's almost like an equal pattern. So what would be nice is that if we get some scale variations, so that you have like bigger trees and smaller trees and then bigger trees and all that kind of stuff again. Like, more scale variation is going to help this hillside feel a bit more organic. Now, because you wanted some specific improvements when it comes to texturing and lighting, here are a couple ones. Let me break them down. First of all, I wanted to enhance the highlights. So, especially on the castle and the people in the foreground, right? There's a video attached to it as well. I think the video does like an even better job because it adds movement and all that kind of stuff. But if we can highlight them a little bit more compared to the rest of the environment, that's already going to help us a lot, right? So we can kind of see that here. Like, if you pay attention to like the foreground and then also the castle, like just highlighting them a little bit, making them stand out a bit more. Two is a subtle vignette, so we can kind of see that I slightly darkened like the borders. Obviously you get to do a better job at that because like my vignette is uniform, where in this case you might not want it to have like such a strong effect on like the sky, for example, right? Because that's where it becomes like more noticeable. But a vignette always helps. But I think the big one is to soften all the contrast. Your trees, for example, they have a lot of contrast because they cast a lot of shadow, which is kind of to the detriment of the softness of the original concept, right? So what I try to do in this quick overpaint is showcase like the before and after, where I try to unify the trees more by softening them out a little bit. And making them, but it's hard to do this in like Photoshop, right? But what I tried to do is I was basically trying to cut out a lot of the shadows from the trees. Or like make them a little bit more softer so that they flow better into like the hillside, giving them like a nice softness to it. Again, way easier to do in the engine, right? Another example here is on the mountains. So if you pay attention to the mountains on the left, you can kind of see that the mountains that we have here, the white and the black contrast can get a little bit distracting. So again, I just try to reduce that a little bit. I just like going over it. It's all very subtle stuff, but I think it really helps increase like the softness of the whole scene and kind of brings the focus really to where it belongs, right? I hope it is clear to see. For example, some of the details here. It's very simple stuff, but like trying to make it feel more softer. And then the foreground as well. You got some. This is an adjustment that I just couldn't do. Like you have like a lot of very dark stuff happening in the foreground. I would say try to cut that out as much as possible and like lessen the intensity of some of the shadows here, because again, like it's pulling you towards here because of the contrast between the shadowy parts and the highlights, right? The contrast between those two. So yeah, those were some of my notes. But honestly, that's what it comes down to, right? It is just those like subtle little things that are really gonna make it happen, right? Like, and especially getting that softness from the concept, getting that in more. If I show you the concept, for example, if we add that on top of everything, look at like how soft like all this stuff feels in terms of the contrast, right? Compared to what we have here, right? Like there's more contrast and it's kind of creating like intensity where we don't necessarily want intensity. But again, it's small stuff, be relatively easy. And I mean, dude, the hard part is done, you know? This environment looks stunning. So I think you did an amazing job. And it's just about like putting those little things on top of it. Cool. Yeah. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for sharing this beautiful piece. And again, welcome to the community. Oh, wait, last thing that I'll do. I'll, hold on, let me drag this over. Because I do want to see this, you know? I know it's kind of a shame because it's kind of cut off by like the, by the clouds, but, by the chat, not by the clouds. Yeah, beautiful looking environment. Great job. Full of work. Yeah. All right, cool. Thank you for showcasing that. Let me just move some stuff over. Team challenge stuff. Team challenge stuff. And I think those are the last ones that I did like an overpaint for. Okay. Let's go through these. Anthony saying that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for the feedback and the kind words. I am ready to join the call. Let's go. Welcome to the cult. Fair. Well, let's have a look. What are you working on? Well, I think you're starting something. So let's have a look. Ah, you called this beautiful, beautiful project Environment House. This is, by the way, how I start like every project. I call it like the most generic thing ever, you know, until I figure out like a cool name later down the line. I think I'm ready to try a real big environment scene for the first time using different techniques. I've attached an image with a rough sketch and how I believe I should approach the scene. Okay. Wanted to get your opinion first before I start the block out. Cool. Let's have a look. Let me click on some other music before we do that. Should we like randomize it? Let's just do this. Okay, so first question. I'm not sure how to create all the windows and the doors. Should they be made with a trim sheet or modular pieces? Can those techniques be combined? Okay, let's have a look. What are we even looking at? I've not looked at it yet. You're talking about the windows and the doors. We kind of have the same sort of motifs going on, right? So if you wanted to get my opinion on this, the way that I would break this up is you could almost see like the center and like these more unique elements as unique, right? These guys are going to be unique. And then the rest of it could be made with a trim sheet, right? Same for this. And now because we've made them here already, we can just reuse them on here. So these guys are going to be the same. So we can kind of reuse. We can basically reuse or like create a kit that kind of has like these unique pieces that are going to slot in with a trim sheet, right? So the way that could look like, for example, is let's say you have, this is your trim sheet. It's going to have like all the wood stuff on top of it. And then here at the bottom, you can have like all these like more unique elements just like poured into it, right? So you can kind of cobble stuff together if you wanted to. And that's totally fine, right? So that would be totally valid. Yeah, the bottom is unique. Oh wait, so trim sheet is this, and then unique stuff is at the bottom. That's totally valid to work that way. Let's see. How did you note it down? Oh, not sure. Okay. That is interesting because that's more normal map detail. I feel like, yeah, it's almost like you kind of want to take like the back of it. You could almost make like one panel. You know, this would be like your panel, and then you just like symmetry it. So that would be a unique part as well. And the same thing here. Or what you could do is just be kind of, I don't know. It depends on your choice of words, right? Be lazy or clever and kind of just reuse some of the components here where you can be like, I am just going to use, I don't know, let's say a sample of this to create like an area here, potentially. There's some cool stuff that you can kind of cobble together from like pre-existing stuff too. Because again, this doesn't need to be like 100% like the concept, right? You can kind of take the elements that you've already created and create like new elements with them by being smart with like, I don't know, using a trim sheet. Let's say in this case, you have this little lip right on the door. You can kind of use that as a barrier to use to obstruct like anything that's ugly, right? So for example, if you have like, I don't know, if you have like this sort of pattern, but then you kind of want to cut it off halfway through, you can kind of do that because that lip is there, and you can have like a smaller lip with a trim sheet kind of obscuring it. Something like that. You can cobble things together from different places. Anyway. And the second question is, how would you approach the roof? I feel like I can't just be like a tileable texture here. Should it be 100% geo? Because placing every single roof tile manually. So, there's a couple of cool ways if you can do this. I would say if you want to get that like nice juicy look that you can see here, I would definitely try. There's a couple of ways you can do this, right? In order of complexity. I'll explain them to you. Let me see. First order of complexity is array modifiers. This is just you take like a single shingle, or you take like multiple shingles and then you just throw them into an array modifier and it just does like a pattern like you want it to. And then you can even combine like an array with another array, right? So you can have one that does like all the horizontal tiles and one that does like all the vertical tiles, right? You can do it like that. There's another one. Displacement plus a lattice. Yeah, I don't want to do a displacement in this case, but a lattice can be an interesting choice. I'm just thinking how we can combine an array modifier that is going to be projected onto a surface without using geonodes. Because my second answer, and this is the way that I did it, was using geonodes. But again, for like a single roof, I don't think you need to. I would honestly do an array modifier. You know, kind of get like the base pattern and then collapse the modifier stack and just like do some manual modeling. Because I think that's going to give you the best results, right? Is you basically use the strength of like a tool and then you add that uniqueness by like going in hand and like maybe one of the tiles is like fallen off, or I don't know, partially broken, or whatever you want to do, right? Like you can kind of build that in afterwards. But I would definitely get like the main pattern with an array modifier and then build on top of that. Because this is cool, but also it's kind of you kind of need to, I don't know, have some technical knowledge, right? And it can bog you down. Ferry is asking, so full geo for the roof, right? Yeah, sorry. What I would do in this case is build yourself a kit of a couple of roof tiles. So that, imagine that this is your texture sheet, right? I would just have like a little atlas that has like, I don't know, let's say, I don't know, 6 tiles on it or something like that, you know? And the reason why I had like a couple is because then you can make like one broken tile and 5 whole tiles, but they can have like slightly different textures. And then because the array modifier just randomizes stuff, right? Or can randomize stuff, you can then have like a very unique looking roof that then gives you enough of a base layer to then go on top of it with like decals or something like that. if you want to make it more unique. So yeah, I would honestly go full geo if you want to do something like this. Keep the geo like relatively simple, but yeah, this is gonna look so juicy, you know? Like get all those like nice patterns. Because imagine if this is like a first person game, right? And you want to make this house like look really, really good. Like that's the way to do it, you know? Cool. Yeah, there's definitely tools that you can use to like make the scattering and the actual placement like way easier. So use those. What I will make a note of is combined workflows. Be lazy, you know? Be proud that you can be lazy. Like do it in the cheapest way. Sometimes the easy but slow hands-on approach gives you the best results. I will say in like 80% of the ways. 80 if not 90. I think procedural tools have gotten really, really good. But if you really want to make something unique, you have to go in by hand. You just have to. And just sometimes there's sometimes limitations of pipelines, right? Or like games where let's say, hey, look, we're making an underground city that has like all pipe, like it's all just going to be pipes and networks and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to be doing that by hand. But also no one's going to care about like if you didn't build it by hand, right? Because it's more about like the big vision, like the big impact that has on the scene. Because what happens, and this is what we're by the way seeing with Nanai too, is that just the amount of geometry and the amount of detail already makes us perceive it as being more detailed than it otherwise would be. If that makes sense. Like you can hide a lot of like you can hide a lot of areas that would look like pretty shit, to be honest, by just slapping like a bunch of geo on it. It's like a really easy way of like, let's imagine just like a ground floor with only normals and you just had like displacement on top of it. It's like a sort of like a hack of just making it look more interesting than it would be otherwise. Let's see. What did we say there? Yeah, so an atlas of roof tiles. Dunk. Yeah, cool stuff here. Cool stuff. I will say best of luck, and I'm looking forward to seeing weekly updates on this. Let's go. And I think Denise? Sorry if I mispronounced that. It's not, it's a single N. Let's have a look. Let's see, we had a question in the chat as well. Grab a drink too. Swippage is asking, I'm curious about best practices when you model something from concept art. Should you reach out to the concept artist first and ask if they're fine with it? So the courteous thing to do is to do exactly that, right? But I also think that if you're not doing anything commercially, they can't really stop you. Like, let's say you're just like doing like concept art from someone else and you're not really selling it or anything like that. Like, what are they gonna do, right? Like, there's nothing to go after really. Plus, also, it would look like pretty bad on them as well. But best practice is definitely like reaching out to them first, right? Asking permission. If you wanna You want to do it in the proper way. Slate is saying in pro studios they will rely on technical artists to make things like this for the procedural to use them on different buildings. Yeah, or even like environment artists make it sometimes. I know that I've worked in productions where I was making those tools or some other people were making those tools. So yeah, because let's be honest, like something like this. I mean, if you have like experience in the industry, like something like this is like such a reusable and flexible tool that like it either already exists or it's relatively simple to make. They nearly always appreciate it, and they'll likely comment and share it if you do a good job. It's pretty flattering. Oh yeah, like like if I make like a bunch of like really cool concepts and someone comes knocking at my door and they're like, "Hey, I want to make this in 3D," like I'm gonna be freaking excited about it. You know, it's flattering from both sides. I feel, and I feel like if a person says like, "No, you can't use it," there might there might be there might be a caveat to this where they will say like, "No, you can't use it because it is actually under IP rights or something like that." Let's say it's professional work, right? Then obviously they're gonna say like, "Hey, look, like I don't own the IP, so I can't really say, but also like you shouldn't do it." That's like a different thing where it's not necessarily them making the decision, but like the studio that owns the IP. Okay, Denise, I've been working on this cozy cabin scene, and I would love to hear your thoughts. I'm struggling with the composition and lighting, especially finding a strong top-down shot that conveys the scene properly. Should I just give up and go with one shot that shows the whole interior? Um, I think honestly, I don't really mind this shot. I mean, I actually kind of like it. The only thing that I can really say about this shot is that maybe there's some stuff that's like missing here. Like this corner feels like really empty compared to the rest of it. But honestly, I kind of like this shot, to be honest. So I don't know. I'm not really sure. Because also you don't need to show everything in one shot, right? That's why you kind of have like a shot like this, where it's just like, hey, look, here's everything, right? Or even this shot. And then this is just more like, hey, I find like a cool additional shot that you might like. Because this shot is also pretty cool. Because it's almost like, let's say this is the main shot, right? Because it kind of shows the most. Or you could actually do it the opposite way. Well, let's just go with the flow, right? So that's the main shot, and then these are going to be like detail shots, right? I think that's cool. Or you could do it the opposite way, where like you show like a bunch of detail shots and then do the big reveal at the end. That could also be cool. Number 2, for the furniture assets like the kitchen and the drawers, my plan for now is to make use of a base wood with baked normals and RGB masks for curvature and variation. Do you think this workflow makes sense for this project, or should I just use the wood trim sheets instead? Yes, I'm new here. Welcome, Denise. Welcome. Let's see. Let's read that again. So my plan for now is to use a base wood texture with baked normals and RGB masks for curvature and variation. A base wood texture with baked normals? I'm guessing just like a normal tileable, right? Oh, you're thinking. Oh no, I see what you're saying. So you're slapping just like a tileable on it, but the asset itself has like baked normals as well, and then you're gonna add RGB mass and curvature and all that kind of stuff on top of it. Hey, welcome to the community. Love to see it. Do you think this workflow makes sense, or should I just use wood trim sheets instead? No, I think that workflow can work, right? As long as you. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Because for the furniture assets, let's have a look. Let's say this chair, for example, right? And then RGB mask it up. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely work. For sure. And especially if you have like the assets already lying around, right? I mean, the assets as in you have the shader set up, you have your base wood texture. Baked normals are like quite easy to set up. The only reason why I am quite hesitant is because you're going through the trouble of making like a high poly mesh at this point, right? I mean, high poly as in like you're gonna slap like a bevel modifier on it probably for more of the simple stuff, right? And then baking it down. At that point, it just makes me think like, well, if you want to get like really nice looking detail, you might as well then take it through like the full unique pipeline because that's going to give you more control over where you want dirt to be, where you want specific damage to be, all that kind of stuff, right? But yeah. It just, yeah. It also depends on what you do. This is game arts, right? Like there's no good and bad way. So if that is the thing that you want to do, just go for it. Well, mainly the question that I'll ask is, it looks like you have like uniquely textured assets in the scene anyway. Because my question was going to be, okay, if you don't have unique textured assets, it could be good to showcase that in this environment, but you already have them. So at that point, like, you kind of show that you can do that, right? So we might as well be a bit more flexible and a bit more quick with the way that we approach the rest of the assets from like a workflow perspective. So yeah, that works. Yeah. Cool. But yeah, really cool shots, Denise. I like what's going on. Cool stuff. But yeah, the way that I'll repeat the last point is basically think about how you want to present it on your portfolio, right? It's good to showcase a wide variation of skills when it comes to showcasing the skills, right? Denise is saying, yeah, I can make all the assets unique then. Thanks a lot. It's more of an option, right? Because I think the only thing that you should do is for an environment of this size, right? Is showcasing that you can do all the skills to make like the full environment. So that's why I was thinking if you have one asset that showcases the whole unique pipeline and you do a breakdown of that in like your ArtStation post, right? That's technically all you need. You could then technically go out of your way and make like a bunch of assets, but like if you have one that's like relatively complex and you showcase it in that one, that's enough, right? Because you wanna basically showcase that you can do the workflow. So if you have that one showcase and then you want to do the other ones in a quicker way, that's totally fine. Yeah. Really cool stuff, Denise. Loved to see all this. And yeah, I do love these shots, you know? Like these shots are looking pretty cool. Yeah, great stuff. And thank you for joining our lovely community. Happy to have you. Right. Jamie's next. Let's have a look. My concern is that the focal point and the framing is very static, while I'm aiming for the foliage to break up the composition. I'd like to know if anyone feels it's still too static. I mean, the reason why it feels static is because the composition is centered, right? Dead on center. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that is what makes it feel like it's static, right? So if you wanted to add like a bit more, if you wanted to make the shot feel more dynamic, then you would look into like the rule of thirds or something like that, right? To add a bit of dynamism to the whole scene. But again, like I don't necessarily mind that it feels static because a shot like this is kind of more, I don't know, it can look cool when it's static, you know, when we're just focusing on the door. Oh my god. So yeah. Yes, yes. Quick and simple. Like it. Yeah. Cool, Jamie. Thanks so much for sharing that. And then let's see, Just Max. Yeah, Just Max and Frosty Fox, and then we're just gonna jump into some team challenge stuff as well. Let's see. I think Just Max has some follow-up questions from last time as well. Right, so Just Max is asking, the first one is, which one of these two setups do you find more interesting and why? Good question. Okay, first thing that comes to mind. Oh, actually, let's turn it to the chat as well. So chat, I'm gonna tag these. So version A or version B? Which one do you prefer? Version A or version B? Let's go. You can have your vote. You sound like a real streamer now, chat. I know. I gotta lead into it, you know? B, A. B, B. Okay. B. I like A, but for A... Oh my god, I read that completely the wrong way. Slate is saying, I like A, but for a portfolio, I assume B. Oh, why is that, Slate? Why is that? Why is there a difference there? I think B feels too stylized. Ah, interesting, interesting. Okay. Okay, so it seems like we got what do we have? Like 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 against 4. Interesting. Yeah, so okay, the reasons why I also prefer B, because it feels more focused on what we want to pay attention to. Right? Like with this I'm kind of getting the story of, I don't know, just like a cozy home detective or something like that. Maybe cozy slash like crazy or something like that, right? Slate is saying, I don't know, apparently people like to look at color. Also, maybe it feels more alive and interesting. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because they tell two different stories. Where like this one, even though it's cold, it feels more inviting than this one. But I also do prefer this one because it's again, it's more focused on the focal point, right? Or like the hero elements, like the desk, right? That's where we're focusing. Whereas with this one, we're kind of getting more pulled to like this, right? So this is where the focus goes here. But the story in this one is like slightly different, right? Like I feel some unease. As in the lighting is very sterile, very cold, you know? Not cold as in like color, but like I guess sterile is a better word, you know? Where this is almost, I mean, it's been ages since I played Resident Evil. Like the last Resident Evil was like Resident Evil, I don't know, in the 90s somewhere. But at least from the videos that I've seen, like the newer ones, they kind of use this to kind of, I don't know, get like that unease. Um, and then also you have like this tiny color accent happening here, which weirdly enough, like I don't know why it's red. It kind of feels like it might be. This is me reading into it, right? But it feels like there's like something small burning or something like that. Because it's not coming from the computer screen, right? Because then we would have like a cold kind of like, I don't know, like a bluish kind of tone. So I don't really know where like that is coming from. Like something is on fire or something like that. I mean, not on fire. Like it kind of feels like, I don't know, it feels a bit out of place too. But I get why that's happening, right? It's like the whole color contrasting again. What are people saying about this? So the lights are key elements to show off the work, and I feel like lights in the A ones are distracting. Like it makes me look at it compared to everything else. Yeah, and then Vidar is saying, I feel A feels more like someone has left in a hurry, like the space is stale. It hasn't changed since whatever happened. Yeah, I think that's a good way of saying it. Yeah, because B I'm still getting like, oh, this is a person that's working and it's like freaking all over the place and like they just went for a coffee, right? I'm not really getting a sense of dread. But like in the first one, ooh, I don't know, kind of more mysterious, right? Like you're saying, Vidar. Yeah. So that's a good little breakdown. But yeah, I will say because there was I think Slate is saying, yeah, the lights are key elements to show off the work. And this is an interesting one for this scene specifically, right? Where it's almost better to have less light and have more focus on like the key elements in the scene rather than try to overcompensate and have like more light in the scene, because I can bet you that everything in the scene looks really, really nice. But you then don't want to make it look like, oh, this is a portfolio piece and then have lights everywhere, because then we're kind of doing a disservice to the work, right? So it's an interesting, and I've seen that before where people would be like, hey, look, I've made all these awesome assets. I made all these unique bakes for like this asset here and here and here, and then they'll try to light up the whole scene to like make sure that you see it. But it's like, no, 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 because you need to retain the mood, and then maybe in the breakdowns you can show like the workflow and the pipeline and all that kind of stuff that you used, right? Cool. But just Max is following up with a second question. You mentioned that the blue night setup seemed more interesting to you compared to the original. Could you elaborate on that? Is it mainly due to the color and color contrast, or is there more to it? From my part, if we were to compare these two, right, like this again feels way more interesting to me. Exactly like you said, just Max. Like it feels more like there is color contrast, there's interest happening in the scene, whereas there's nothing technically wrong with this. Like you can have like a monochromatic scene, but I think to me that's just not what I prefer to see. And I think that is where my personal tastes come into play, right? Um because I love to see things that are, I don't know, a little bit more contrasty, like a little bit more um yeah. Like if you were to say like there's some people that make like beautiful scenes in like monochromatic ways. So, like for example, this, right? Looks awesome. And it kind of has like a very cinematic look. I'm just not a person who would like try to recreate that, if that makes sense. So there's definitely bias here, right? That doesn't mean that like this can't look good. I think my heart always goes to like something like this instead. Because you're still getting the same elements to a certain degree, right? Even though again, this does a better job of like yeah. I think this does a better job of focusing on the things that actually happen rather than this that is trying to mimic like the silhouette of something, right? So yeah, I hope that makes sense. It's a lot of personal interest and a lot of bias here, so that's why opening it up to the chat as well and having their opinions, like that's really helpful for this exercise here. And that's what I want you to do, right? In your case, just Max, like, don't only talk to me, talk to a lot of different people, see how they feel about it, and see how it gets perceived by like a wider audience, right? Because it's always better to have like multiple points on the graph to to anything else. McVal is saying I voted B purely based on the floor reflection. I mean, you gotta get those juicy floor reflections in. Come on, let's be honest. That's why we do game art, you know. Screw storytelling, like screw textures. Like look at these juicy reflections. Right. Moving on swiftly, we're going to Frosty Fox. Frosty Fox is working on a carpenter's house. Question 1 is, do you have any feedback on the proportions of the house and the surrounding props? Does the house feel properly scaled within the environment? First attention, let's actually strip it down a little bit, right? Let's make it easier to look at. And there's a second one. Nice. Okay. Yeah, I'm not really, at a glance, I'm not really getting anything that's wrong proportions-wise. There's nothing really standing out glaring to me, which is good. But I do feel like it's properly scaled, you know? We do some like, depends on how the house is built, right? So this is like ground floor height-ish. We're doing accurate measurements. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? That can definitely work. Again, you don't have to be so specific about it, but yeah. And then RTX on in the corner. Anything that shows the imperfections is a 10. All right, I gotta head out. It was a nice stream. Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Slade. As always, love it to have you as company. Oh, and thank you so much for the sub, Goopil. Appreciate it. Right, second question then. Do you have any suggestions when it comes to regarding storytelling, lighting, and overall composition? Well, suggestions regarding storytelling. And I feel maybe storytelling, I think lighting, honestly, currently, oh God, what is happening here? Button stuck. No. I think the lighting is doing a really good job of like funneling you in to it, right? Currently, I think that's what I like to see. Later down the line, we're gonna have to see like how the atmospherics like play into like the background here, right? Like how we can reduce like some of the attention that goes here. But that is so early on that like at this point, I have no worries about this whatsoever. So yeah, maybe storytelling, because this is a carpenter's hut, right? Okay. Let's have a look. Portions look good. And the second thing is just storytelling, right? Let's see. We got some tools, we got some wood, carpenter stuff going on. Maybe something that links to like carpentry, right? There's like a little bit of space here. Like a tiny sawmill or like cutting lumber or something like that. Something that elevates it from like just being a house with some like lumber next to it to like an actual carpenter's house, right? Um, to kind of elevate it. It doesn't need to be a full workshop. It doesn't need to be anything like that. But it can just be interesting to have some stuff that like hints to what they do, right? I mean, you also do have a river, so maybe you can have some like logs coming down the river or something like that. It's like a very, very natural mode of transport for like logs. That could be cool. But yeah, I think this is a great, great start. Let me see. The story behind this environment is that an old wood carpenter has lived in this forest home for many years. The house is located deep within within a forest near a waterfall and small river, where he gathers wood, bark, and other natural materials. He crafts tools, sculptures. Oh, so he's not. Yeah. Okay, okay. He's not like a lumberjack. He's like making tools with it. Okay. He's built a small bridge over the river for easier access. My main goal is to keep the visual focus on the house, and I've set up some initial blockout scene in Unreal Engine. Okay, so if we're doing that, right, what you could lean into then is instead of doing this, well, you could kind of keep this if you wanted to, but like carvings or I don't know, like a handmade wooden bridge. And what I mean by that is that he's really proud of his craft. So like this bridge is gonna look really sick with like hand carved elements into it. Maybe there's like a fence that opens up where you can see like I don't know, like some like really nice design like kind of carved into it, right? So like some stuff that can lean into like him showing off his craft, right? Yeah. I would definitely focus on the craft and see if you can make some like really cool stuff, right? Because he has a beautiful house already. Now something with the wood, like kind of combining the architectural elements here with some like unique carvery stuff that he does. Kind of add some like really cool detail. All right. That was it, Frosty Fox. Thank you so much for posting. I really love the story behind this. I love the choice of the concept. I think you got a good head start. So keep up the good work, and we'll see each other next week. Right, before we get into the team challenge stuff, I'm gonna take a quick toilet break, and I'll be right back. All right, we back. Let's have a look. So final 3 for tonight. We got some team challenge stuff going on. Looking freaking awesome. Let's have a look. So, current progress for the team challenge. We're heading towards the last week. We wanted to ask for feedback about the readability of the scene. What are your impressions first with the secondary? First, secondary, and third read. Is the scene too noisy? What could we add? Let's have a look. First of all, the scene is not too noisy. I'm not really getting overwhelmed. I do want to be careful with the balancing of like the lighting, right? Because it feels like a lot of it is just the same sort of value at the moment. Like I'm getting a difficult read from like the back. Like I want like a sharper distinction between the foreground and the background. That'll be like the first thing that stands out. We have like the silhouette here, which is working great, but I feel like balancing the lighting. Maybe the fill light is just too much. Where like some of these masks, maybe not now you bring it up. I wouldn't mind that like, let's say the top is a bit more obscured, you know? Oh, half of it is covered. Because I mean, the composition focuses you to the back of it already, right? But I do feel like we can darken the ceiling by a lot to have an effect there. Give it a try. What are we gonna do? Midtones. I'm gonna go for a massive brush. We do not want to lighten it. I think it also helps with just like the more spooky vibe, you know? Let's hide that. And then potentially even do the same thing. Like those highlights, potentially. And focusing more on like the bottom floor. That's definitely getting too much. Let's have a look. Definitely like somewhere in between, you know? Where you can kind of see like maybe it is too noisy, and maybe that was because of the lighting, right? Like not being focused enough on the back end. Because what do we have now? So if we were to do this, let's give this a try. right? And if we then compare, I mean, it might be too much, like a little bit too much. Like I toned it down. This is like the pure version, right? So yeah, this helps us more focus towards like the things that matter in the end, right? And then maybe I'm tempted to like, I don't know, turn the whole thing down just a notch. Um, yeah, definitely something to work with though. More focus towards the end, right? And I think it could also be cool to have like those masks in the ceiling be more hidden, and that you only notice them when like paying attention. And that also gives you the benefit of just adding more to them, right? Because then it could be like this really creepy stuff that's just hanging in the background, like hanging in the ceiling in this case. Hey Vidar, got to head out. Thanks for the feedback and great work to all the wonderful whips from the evening. Looking forward to seeing the progression. Yeah, me too. And thank you so much for being here, Vidar. Let's see. So let me shrink these two down. It was like a little bit of a before and after. Right. What was the other question? So, what can we add for storytelling? We want to break up the surfaces more and make an aging pass. I think honestly, that would be the thing that I would do too. Is really look into like those subtle details where the middle of the path is more worn from like all the people traveling compared to the edges, right? So having like some sort of like grime and stuff build up. Oh, before the stream, I was also thinking like it could be cool to just have, I don't know, some like leaves on the floor as well, because we're hinting at like this tree in the background, and maybe this is like, you know, after maybe like, I don't know, like late autumn or something like that, and people are making the pilgrimage to see like the trees falling from the tree or something like that. I don't really know. Well, I haven't really taken a proper look, but I don't really know what the story could be behind it, right? But yeah, that could be cool. Oh, I didn't even see this stuff here. Feels like we need to do a better job of like highlighting this, right? Because we have all these candles. That looks like yeah, that looks in great shape. So we have like all these candles, but like none of them are pointing towards like the middle, right? We almost want to have like some attention going to like this shape instead of what's happening here, right? Maybe turn this down. But yeah, really cool stuff though. I really like the scene. So cool. But yeah, the aging pass is gonna help so long, like a lot, right? Um, and see it from like a scene itself, where like everything is gonna be flowing together, and how can you like integrate things together by like, I don't know, using the same kind of textures. You know, if you have like a dirt on the floor, like that dirt needs to be like on the bottom of the pillars, all that kind of stuff. You know, look sick. Looks good. All right. Oh, but yeah, great stuff, team. So yeah, more focus here, especially here, actually. Like more centralized, I guess. Because even in the unedited version, like this is almost like black, right? You kind of want the focus to be more on that thing rather than the candles next to it. Thanks so much for the feedback. Yeah, you're welcome. It is balancing the lights and making sure that like all the dots are like on the eyes, you know, and that you have like nice transitions between the surfaces. All the cool stuff is coming in this week, so I'm really excited to see how this is gonna look like a week from now. So yeah, amazing stuff to the team. Thanks for participating, and also sharing the feedback, like participating in the feedback session. Jesus, it's getting late, huh? Thank you, Swippish, and the team, of course. Next team is Lily's team. It was requested to have this earlier on, but unfortunately, we're gonna have individuals go before the team challenges. Let's have a look. So what can we do here? Or like, what do you want my help with? Let's start there. Because I forgot to make notes. So Lily is asking for the lighting. We want to go for dusk or dawn settings. How would you tackle this? Or do you have any general feedback on the lighting? We want to change the lighting and post-processing this upcoming Sunday. Okay, so dusk or dawn. Let's have a look. Let's get inspired. Dusk. Ta-da-da-da. Hello, I'm a part of this team. Hello, Eden. So we have a lot of purples. Purples and greens and blues, right? But I'm thinking, what do we want to do in terms of colors? Because we could kind of lean into it and keep it like kind of subtle, right? Like I'm thinking about like the background and kind of the lighting. And so we can do something like this, or we could do something like this, which has like a bit more like red tones coming in, right? Or we could do something like this, where we have like a transition to more red tones coming in. So it kind of, that's where I would start. I would kind of see what kind of lights we want to emphasize, right? Or like what kind of contrast we kind of want to emphasize. Volunteered as a tribute to stay up. You don't have to stay up. This is recorded. You can watch it tonight, or like tomorrow if you wanted to. But I appreciate it nonetheless, Eden. Thanks for sticking on for so long. So yeah, that's where I would start. Yeah, which colors do we want? Right? I think the issue is things are really dark, so we kind of want to make sure it's readable without it being muffled, if you know what I mean. Hold on. Not an issue. The team will probably want me to correct on that myself. No, that's okay. Things are really dark. Yeah, it's almost... It's almost... Okay, hear me out. So I'm thinking, what if we... I mean, you could still do it, actually. So what if we go for a lighting that's a little bit later in the day? My thinking is that the sun is like at this sort of an angle, right? Sort of like coming in at like a nice God ray kind of angle. Then what we do is we play around a lot with light functions or obscuring the light coming in from like the trees above, right? That gives you a lot of flexibility to make the scene light while also being very specific with where you want shadows and stuff, right? It's almost like I don't know if we're gonna find anything very specific what I'm looking for here. God, this is so over the top. Could that work? Let me find a good image here. Because we have to be very careful with the oh god. Oh, it's AI stuff. I don't like it. Well, okay, whatever. Like, it's still secluded, but like there's light peeking through from like the canopy, right? That's sort of what I'm thinking about. But then in this case, because we've got like orange coming from like the house itself, play around with the colors and probably lean it more towards, I don't know, like neutral bluish or something like that. That's what I'm thinking. Even though like a warmer color might work out because we have a lot of blue in the scene already, right? Like the canopies of the trees are blue, you got purples, all that kind of stuff. It's just we don't want to make it like a coloring book. We don't want to add too much more colors to it. That's the issue. Because I think that is something to be very careful of, is the amount of colors in total, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, really play it into like the leaf shadows. Leaf shadows. Like small gold rays or something like that. I don't know. Like the more that I'm talking about this, the less that I like it though. Well, yeah, I was kind of going the same way, Eden. So you're saying, I mean, we have a master material that we can mute the colors of. So if things go that way, we have something to make sure the color hues are not too strong in comparison to the lighting. The inspiration for this is Palea, if it helped. Yeah, I kind of have like a vague thing about Palea. Like a vague idea. Because it is almost like you kind of want to keep it simple, right? Like maybe the forest idea, like the forest clearing idea could be a good one. It's something to play around with. Because here's the thing that I'm thinking of, right? Like either we go with something that like leans into natural light, like a lot, or we go for something that does the total opposite, where the lighting predominantly comes from the house itself, right? So that, I don't know, maybe it's like really early dusk, like where, I don't know, we're getting a little bit of color, sort of like this stuff, right? But it's very monochromatic, very neutral, and then we let the light just come from the house itself, and then maybe we can increase the light there. Otherwise, we might have to do the opposite, where the light mostly comes from the sun or the directional lighting, and then we might have to reduce the light on the house itself. I don't know. I would definitely play around with it too, see what works best. and just try to have like a one person focusing on it for like a whole day, let's say, and then do like a couple of iterations. Do like a set of 3, share them with the team, and then sit together and like try to decide which one you want to go for. Because yeah, it's not one thing that can work, right? Like there's a multitude of things that can work. Because it's also what the team wants to do, right? Where if the team really wants to go for like this kind of, I don't know, maybe even like if it wants to go for like really cozy and cute, right? Then it might be good to lean into more like the light coming through the canopy, because that's going to be wholesome and all that kind of stuff. Or if you want to go more into the mysterious and like all that kind of like maybe the creepy, maybe, then go for a colder lighting. Yes. We plan to sit down as a team to work out where we want to go in lighting. We kind of want something. We kind of wanted some second opinion, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you want to have a second opinion, at this point, it's always better to do like the lighting iterations. And then if you want to have me like have a look at it, or the mentor have a look at it, then feel free to do that, right? Feel free to tag us. Is it easy to determine which engine the render was taken by just looking at it? Yeah, relatively. Relatively. Like every engine kind of has like their own way of rendering things, right? Especially if you go more like tech driven. Tech as in like what kind of upsampling solution they use, or what kind of like anti-aliasing solution they use, or how do the materials get rendered and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, Eden. Yeah. Yeah, I would say do that. Give us a couple of options, and then yeah, let me know if we can help with that. But yeah. Thanks, Eden, and thanks to the team. This looks nice though. I like the softness of the flower. It looks so good. Because yeah, this can look like really good. Like once you start like increasing like the softness of the lights and stuff, you can make it like really nice and cozy. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Thank you to the team. And last one for today is Megval. Yeah, no worries, Eden. Thank you for being here. You can finally go to sleep now. Thanks for being here. Last one for tonight, Megval. How is the texturing looking so far? I'll add some references down below, and anything that stands out of place or looking weird at the moment. Let's have a look. Okay, a couple things like straight from the hip. If we're doing detail shots, right, then pixel density. Pixel density between like these two things is completely different, right? Like the resolution. So that is one thing that like immediately stands out. Because like, yeah, you can definitely tell like one looks more crisp compared to like the other one, right? What is that? Is that like a tiny string? What? Oh my god, that's so tiny. I think you might have to beef up that string. Oh, what's happening here? Oh, you're still working? Enlarge and string, exactly. You need a screenshot of the whole scene for reference? Well, it's like if we're looking at like the individual props, right? Then if you want to do a breakdown, this stuff is going to be relevant, because My feedback would be completely different for the scene, right? If it's going to be somewhere in the scene, we're not going to see that. But if you want to do it as like a breakdown, then yeah, we're gonna have to pay attention to those like smaller details, right? Same thing for like the floating string here. Yeah, sometimes for these like tiny things, it actually makes a lot more sense to kind of do it the way that you did it here, right? Where you just bake things down onto the surface. I think you might have used like a trim sheet or something like, or like pre-existing asset to add this, maybe. But like when it comes to like these flimsy things, you ideally want to bake them down. Not that you have to do it now, right? Um, but those elements be baked down potentially. Got some glass bottles. Yeah. Again, it might be like a textile density. Infinity. It's like a... There's like a blurry versus sharp thing going on, right? Like this is kind of blurry, and then the wood is kind of sharp. That might not mean that you're in the wrong, right? But yeah, textile density consistency, if you want to do a presentation, is going to be like a big thing, right? It's just, yeah, it's just something to keep in mind for like those detail renders for your presentation, right? Especially presentation, going to be important there. The black wrap is sculpted. The others are separate meshes. They look too separate from the rest, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like they're floating, right? You kind of want to wrap them like really tightly. I don't really mind this one actually in terms of like the way that the mesh is added to or wrapped around it, right? But with this one, you can clearly see that it's just like floating, right? So with this one, that's an issue. With this one, the floating is not really an issue. Like it seems like it's like nicely wrapped to it. Another thing here is playing around with the albedo, like darkening the base color. Because it looks like, you know, there's no blending between the two surfaces. So it kind of feels like it's just like a brand new like shoelace that's like wrapped around it, right? So like trying to get like more well, if this is a unique texture, like having blending between those two surfaces is gonna help. It's a 512 texture currently, but it's textured with a 2K, so I can make it look better for detail shots. Yeah. Yeah. For that other one, I can probably scale it down to wrap it tighter. Oh yeah, 100%. It's an easy fix, right? It's super easy to fix it. Yeah, that's definitely... I would potentially... yeah. You might have to increase... You could actually get away with like just increasing the scale so that it actually touches the mesh, and then you're good. If you want to know like a sneaky thing for this, if you're using Blender, that is Alt S, just select the whole thing, Alt S, and it will like shrink, and or like, well, in this case, fatten it, right? Gonna help. Cool. But yeah, that's looking good. Kind of hard to see what's happening here. Yeah, cool stuff. Oh, sorry. Well, your second question was anything that sounds out of place or looking weird at the moment. Yep. I mean, that's kind of what we looked at, right? And then for texturing, I think the glass ones that can be improved, right? But it's really tricky to get glass to look correctly. I feel like that's why we need like 5.7 and what is the substrate to come along, so that we can do that properly finally. How's the wood looking? That's where I've spent the most time on the effigy. Yeah, I do like the wood. The wood looks really nice. I also like that you added those detail with like the wraps where like people like it's more worn like around the edges where people tend to like keep it, right? So that's looking cool. Yeah, if you want to we talked about this before with Victoria's work, right? But you can do the same thing, like just enhance the silhouette just a little bit by I don't want you to like retexture anything, right? But just like have like a little bit of like a lip, like enhance the silhouette a little bit of this asset. It could be cool. I don't know if something's going to be on top of this because then it might be hidden and then this is useless, but be cool as a standalone thing. I like the rest of the silhouette though. Feels very organic. Oh yeah. These guys, right? The little string definitely increases size. A good benchmark here is just well, it's even simpler, right? Like we're looking at this from like a pretty close distance. I didn't even realize that there was string attached to it. So we wanna be able to see it, right? Because usually why we exaggerate things in games, because we then see it for a longer time in the distance, right? Because as soon as we have like those flimsy like little elements, they usually get destroyed by like any anti-aliasing solution that we use, and they just disappear almost immediately. So usually that's why we tend to like exaggerate proportions compared to what they are in real life. Right. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, some of this stuff could be. Is this a unique texture or is that like a trim sheet? They were visible in Painter? What are bones compared to reference? I mean, they look quite nice, yeah. I think maybe the roughness could be improved because they're like really shiny. Right? You probably want them to look like a bit more dull. Because this is almost like very plasticky, right? What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So for these strings or like the string or the rope or whatever, like I would think about like making it feel, I don't know, like a little knot or something like that, and then have like a string coming from it. I think there might even be a built-in like knot generator inside of like Blender. It's hidden somewhere in like some add-on. Well, not an add-on. I think it's built in. Yeah, you can do the same thing here, where just like you add like a little knot. Just have like three things coming out of it. It looks like it's properly tied down, right? Like rather than wrapped around it. It's just one of the weave alphas in Painter for the wrap. Oh, is the whole thing uniquely unwrapped? Because if so, like a tip that I can give is like next time make it like 1,000 times easier. Just have like a little tiny section of a trim sheet. And that's gonna solve all the issues. It's so much easier. So like you literally, I don't know if you did it that way. Like a slight delay as well. Like let's say this is your texture. good way of doing it is just like, you just have like a little section of rope. Right? Like on the edge somewhere. And then whatever you want, you can just like wrap the rope on that. And then do the same thing for like, I don't know, let's say the string, you know? Bonk. That's it. It barely takes up any space because usually you can just like hide it in a corner somewhere, but it allows you to like just square like a whole section of string, and it makes it so much more modular and so much more reusable. Right. The good stuff, though, McFam. Good stuff. Right. Yeah. So a couple things here and there. Sounds like you got most of it under control. Couple of like slight adjustments, but yeah. All right. Thank you so much, McFal. I was lazy and didn't straighten it yet, but I'll probably do that. Oh, lazy. Oh, boo. Thanks for the feedback. No worries. Okay. Let's switch it on over. That was it. It's been a long one, so I'm not going to make it too much more than it needs to be. I will put all the overpaints in everyone's little thread that we have going on. I appreciate everyone for taking part. We had 18 people tonight, which is amazing. So thank you so much for sticking it out to the end. Did you make the puddle material yourself? Huh? Puddle material? I don't even know what you're talking about. Oh, the one in the source control. No, that is from God, what is that called? The Dark Ruins environment or something like that. Yeah. I think I don't know how I did it. I made my own version of it, but then I forgot to delete it or something like that. So it is still in there, but I'm gonna replace it for the future ones. But if you want to see the full thing, like I think I simplified it. But the full thing is in like the Dark Ruins environment. But yeah. Anyway. I'm heading on off. So thank you all so much for posting your work. And then yeah, I will see you all in next week. Bye-bye.